We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andrew, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered, and by golly, we've entered the alphanumeric era.
Yes.
We answered the question from last week, how the heck are our crazy episode numbers going to go? And my editing program, my video editing program, decided for us. Not so much for the YouTube upload. It was going to allow that to be 999.9.1 if I wanted it to. But I just extract at this point the audio only version from the YouTube audio, like within the editing programs. And for whatever reason, if I wanted to get the audio in lossless without it having been like AAC compressed, it was like, I'm not going to output it as 999.9.1. I'm just not going to do that with a dot wave at the end or a dot flack at the end. For
too many dots.
For whatever reason, too many dots in that there. But it was perfectly happy to add a letter onto the end of the 999.9. So here we are. We've bought ourselves half a year of episodes to get our heinies in gear and make the changes we're supposed to make prior to episode 1000. Like the count is on, Tom. The count is on.
Yeah. I know it's called AVRant, and we don't really rant that much anymore. There's not very much ranting.
Guess. Some people think we do.
Some people get their their noses bent out of shape if we so much as not rave, which is not the same thing as ranting. I will say, so I have ordered a number of things off of Etsy and Wayfair and other non-Amazon sites, and have always been successful.
Yes.
And recently, we ordered a shelving unit, which I think I've talked about on this podcast before. A shelving unit.
Mentioned it.
It's kind of mid-century modern. It's exactly the style we like. It's all wood. It's very nice. It was a reasonable price. It wasn't cheap, but it was a reasonable price for what we were getting. And we traded a bunch of emails, or I guess they only communicate through Etsy. A bunch of DMs with the seller and stuff like that, and they sent us a picture of the actual unit that they're going to send us that's fully assembled and blah blah blah. And they said they're going to put it in boxes and ship it to us, and then with instructions and stuff like that. And instructions very easy to follow. First of all, not very easy to follow. They are not bad, but you have to know that commas in other countries are decimal points here. Then you have to be okay with your inches being in decimal points, which nobody here is okay with that. So, 11.8 inches is not what you think it is. So, but it was fine. So I started putting it together a while ago and immediately ran into problems in that there was not all the hardware was included to put it together. So I had to stop, after building the base. Just basically the base. The walls couldn't go on because the hardware to put the first row of shelves was not included. So contacted them. Oh, we'll send it to you. We're so sorry. Blah 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 blah. So they sent it to us, and yesterday it finally arrived, which took a while because it was coming from overseas and it got stuck in customs because the way they wrapped it when we got it, I was like, yeah, this looks like drugs. I mean, it was just like a bag of hardware that was wrapped in so much tape that you couldn't really see what was inside of it. So I was like, yeah, I'd stop that. I'd take a closer look at that too if I were a customs agent. So it finally got through, and I started assembling it yesterday again. And immediately found out that some of the holes, some of the threaded inserts that are installed inside the shelves to install some of these like wooden dowel basically things. One of them is like literally exactly 2 inches off from where it should be. I mean, it's not close, and I don't understand how it happened that way, but clearly the picture they took of the unit that they were going to send us that they disassembled and put into a box or boxes and sent over was a lie. So my wife is just distraught because she's been really excited about this unit. It's been sitting there partially assembled for weeks now, and now we have to go back and try to figure out how to do this. So this is my rant, if you will, about this. I'm just like I don't know.
It's kind of a sad rant. It's not really a ranty rant.
It's not really a ranty rant, but it's sort of this thing where you're like, if it had been a different hole, like some of the holes are just some of the shelves are connected because there's like these wooden dowels that have threaded inserts in them, and then there's a hole through the shelf that the two wooden dowels basically squish together through this little threaded pole, like 2 inches long, that goes through the shelf, and then you tighten it down on both sides on the wooden dowels, and that squishes everything together and it holds it in place. If it had been one of those, it wouldn't have been a problem. I just drilled another hole. I just would have. I mean, that's not brain surgery. I can do that, but it's not. It's one of the ones where the threaded insert is installed inside the piece of wood, which means you have to drill down a certain amount, and you have to have the right threaded insert, and it has to be the right size, and all these other things. So I'm just like, my wife is so upset, and I'm like, and I'm very nonchalant about these things. I'm very nonplussed, or whatever they call it.
Well, that's not really the right word. People are using it that way, but nonplussed means bewildered. So it's not, it doesn't mean unbothered. Unbothered is the word people are looking for.
Is what I should say then. You're right. I am unbothered by these things because what are you going to do? All you can do is reach out to the person and say, and see if they'll fix it. And if they won't, then, I know a carpenter and he can definitely do it. I mean, I'll have to pay him, but he can definitely do it. So it's not like it's the end of the world, but she's very unhappy right now, the poor thing. And personal stuff. So last week, did we talk about the shots I was supposed to get in my back last week?
Yes, that was going to happen after we had recorded last week.
Yes. They called and canceled again.
Oh, no.
This happened a couple of times. The first round of shots I had, they called and said, "Oh, your insurance hasn't approved it yet. So, we're going to have to reschedule." So they did that again. They said, "Your insurance hasn't approved it yet. We haven't gotten authorization. So we're going to have to reschedule you." So they've rescheduled me for today. So I called them the next morning, the morning that I was supposed to have it happen.
Yeah.
And rescheduled because I wanted to have a new date scheduled. And then I called my insurance company through. So my insurance is through my wife, who works for the city of St. Pete. And they have an agent, a person from the insurance company that is stationed for the city in the building to help out with anything that insurance related. So she gave me this person's phone number. I called them and talked to them, and they're like, "Okay, well, I can't really look at exactly that, but I can make some phone calls for you."
Okay.
And I was like, "Great." So she made some phone calls and she called me back. She goes, "Man, we approved that. We approved it 2 days ago. It was approved. It was approved. It was approved before they called you."
Okay.
So I don't know what to tell you. So I called back my doctor and I was like, "Hey, what the heck?" Except I didn't use the word heck. In my mind, in real life, I just said, "Hey, I called my insurance company and they said that they had approved this.
Right.
Why did you reschedule me? I was really looking forward to getting these shots. My back hurts." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, we'll look into that. We'll call you right back." They did not call me right back.
Color me utterly surprised.
So my guess is, best case scenario, they somebody missed a message, didn't realize that it had been approved or whatever, and they rescheduled not knowing. Worst case is they're like, "Oh, we're overbooked," or the doctor wants to play golf or something, and just go reschedule everybody in the morning for another day because I don't feel like coming in. So today I'm getting, and I know that I'm getting the shot because they called to confirm yesterday, and so we are on for today. So, which messes up my afternoon, but it is what it is.
It's worth it. Let that take priority for sure.
Yesterday or the day before, my back finally started feeling better. I feel pretty okay now.
Yeah.
I wake up a little sore, but I feel pretty okay now. But I am definitely looking forward to knowing that I don't have to risk hurting myself again by doing whatever. So
yeah, I'm still very concerned about masking the pain and then thinking you can do more
Rob,
than you can.
Believe me, I am on the same page as you, but I don't know that. I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. Neither one of us knows what the proper thing is. And my wife's kind of on the same page. She's like, here's another specialist I want you to call. I'm like, I am down with that. I will call anybody who won't reschedule me at the last minute over and over again. Like, this is the deal. Don't schedule something if you haven't got approval yet. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on with me. It's just been very busy. My son has a girlfriend. My 16-year-old son has a girlfriend. Okay. He's not calling her that, but they are on the phone 24/7, and now he started going to her house after school. Sure. Supposedly with a parent there, though. I mean, neither you nor I, Tom, is the case, neither you nor I remembers being that age and the sort of tricks and things we would tell our parents. It's not even that hard recollection. Of a trick. I mean, the boy's 16 years old and he thinks he invented lying. Like, he's like, oh my God, I'm pulling the wool over my dad's eyes. I'm like, yeah, you think so?
Yeah, these old folks, they don't know what's really going on. Man, it's never been said before, but parents just don't understand.
They don't.
First ones to think of that.
So he was at her house yesterday, and after work, I did not call him to go tell him I was coming to pick him up. And I showed up, and I was in the driveway, and I was like, I'm here. He's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, it's time for you to leave. And he comes out, and I mean, I mostly did it. Not specifically to pick him up because I knew that he was going to argue with me and want to stay longer. It wasn't that much out of my way, but I wanted to time how I was like mentally timing how long it took him to get out of the house, knowing how long it takes him to get dressed. I was like,
oh, goodness.
And there were more cars in front of this house than there were the last time I was there. So there could have, he said that there was an adult inside. I don't know. I let my wife deal with that part of it. Yeah. Because people are less likely to be resistant to talking to an adult if it's a woman.
I guess there's that. Yeah. A little less worried about the potential for escalation and violence type of stuff. Yeah.
If my wife is like, hey, I just like to talk to whatever adult's there, then it won't be as big of an issue. Whereas it's me, I feel like, what I got to say is it's okay. Settle down, dude. All right. It's not go bow up to somebody else. So that's what's been going on with me. Okay. Very exciting stuff over here. It's called the holding pattern because that's what I'm in. I'm in a holding pattern for building these dang shelves. I'm in a holding pattern for building, getting my shots on my back. And I'm in a holding pattern to see whether or not I can catch my son in a lie.
Right. Shouldn't be that difficult from the sounds of things.
No, he's not clever.
The telltale
he's very
signs.
Smart, but he's not clever. He's not sophisticated. Neither was my other son, my middle son, who now my first son never did anything. It's not that hard to catch him doing a lie because he never did anything. He still doesn't do anything. He's very boring. I was like, you need to get a life. Like we had my first son who were always like encouraging him to do more and break rules and stuff like that. My second son who were always like catching him breaking rules and trying to shut him down constantly.
Yeah, anyone who thinks that the personality traits are not just born into you in some way. I mean, some of it's. I know for me, just my growing up, I can think back on very specific things that happened to me that formed parts of my personality that I can directly, causally link these two things together. But you're right. There's so much of it that's innate. Some of it is.
And then my wife and I keep looking at each other going, well, that's you.
Yeah. Sure.
So what's been going on with you, Rob?
So my sister and I are just making plans for our summer vacation that we're gonna go on with the family summer vacation. So I've been planning some of that. I had a not exactly emergency, but not early pre-scheduled dental visit because I got some sensitivity going on in a tooth, so we didn't do much besides put some topical treatment on that, masking the pain,
masking
like
the
some other
symptoms.
people.
Is that what we're talking about, Rob?
Yeah, none of this is excruciating. It's just a bit of the like swishing some cold water, and I'm like, there's a twinge. Don't love that.
Here it comes.
I'd like
that
to
root canal. As someone who's had a lot of them,
I'd like to be able to munch on some cold grapes without it stinging on that side of my mouth. So yeah, there you go.
Cold grapes. Wow, what a specific thing.
One of my favorite things to chew on.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about you. Eat cold grapes.
That's right.
Are you done? You're not done.
I think I'm done. That's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Quick admission on my part. So I have been talking about the X2 and the battery indicator and how the battery indicator doesn't work on the top of it.
Yes. This is a Sofabaton touchscreen universal remote, the X2 model.
Yeah. And how the battery's dying very quickly and since the update and stuff like that. Okay, so the reason I was saying all that was because I was getting a flash up on the screen of my battery being at 20%.
Okay.
And then I would charge it and it would go away. And I was like, that's great. I now know that. But the battery indicator always said full. And I was charging it pretty regularly. So, like I said, this is an admission on my part.
Okay.
That was not the X2's battery that was flashing up on the screen. That was the battery for the Apple TV 4K remote that has been sitting in the corner for months. Not doing anything. And I'm like...
so what was flashing where? Where was this message flashing?
It was flashing up on the screen of the TV.
Oh, I assumed it was on the screen of the remote
know,
when you said
because
on the
I was
screen.
not specific. And I look back on this whole conversation, I realize... that
why would the X2 put a message on your TV
don't
screen?
Know,
it doesn't
Rob,
have that
but
kind of communication.
I'm not sitting here analyzing this, obviously.
You see, this is how Reddit questions and AI answers come back with some interesting results. Yeah,
this is right. So I have made a mistake. So yes, I then let the X2 remotes. First of all, I charged the battery for the Apple TV 4K remote, so it stopped flashing stuff up on the screen. I realized when it said 10%, I had just taken the battery, the remote off of the cradle that had been sitting there all night. I'm like, okay, something's wrong. What am I missing here? And then everything clicked into place.
Yeah.
So then I left the Apple TV, the X2 off its cradle for a couple of days, and the battery indicator did go down. I still don't love that battery indicator, and there's no way on the remote or the app that I can find that tells you what the battery percentage is. Like, I want it to tell me the percentage of where it's at. I want that to be an option. Like your cell phone.
Yeah, they just give you the little icon, which it does show it draining, but yeah, it doesn't give you the percentage.
Doesn't give you the percentage, and even if it wasn't on the screen, which I want it to be, there's two things I want it to be on the screen. I want the time of day to be on that screen someplace. It drives me nuts that there's
on the remote's own screen.
On the remote screen, yeah.
Time of day. Why?
Because it's a screen. It should have the time of day. And when I pick up the remote, a lot of times I'm like...
I mean, you just mean the time, right?
The time.
The time display. Okay.
What time it is right now. Okay. There's no reason it can't show that. It's got room for it up there. And then I want to have the option of the percentage of the battery to be shown in that little battery indicator.
That's a pretty common thing.
Only things that... Overall, the remote, I'm super happy with it. A couple of times, things have not turned on correctly or whatever.
I mean, when you're dealing with IR, that happened with Harmony remotes too. I mean, how many times did you have to press the help button? I'm sure it was more than zero to resend some IR commands.
Overall, I feel like it's much snappier than it was.
Yeah.
I think it's at least. Yeah. It is. If I could quantify the delay between the button press and the Apple TV 4K going, the delay compared to the remote that comes with the Apple TV 4K, which is fully charged, by the way, it is half as much as it was before that update. So, I mean, I feel like it's way faster than it was. And it feels nearly identical to the Apple TV 4K at this point. There is just a touch of a
tiny
delay,
bit of latency, sure. Yeah.
But not nearly as bad as it was. And it feels very good now. I'm very happy overall with how it's been going. And, I like the app. I like everything. The only issue I had is when I was running speaker cable last week, I moved the receiver and moved it back, of course, because I was getting behind it to plug things in. And I had dislodged the power cord and nobody knew it. And I didn't turn the TV on. So when they went to turn
X2's fault
X2, whatsoever. Someone was like, the remote doesn't work. I'm like, okay. Listen, we're both idiots because I thought that the battery indicator wasn't working, and it's just me.
X2 just catching strays all over the place.
I know.
Absolutely not its fault.
Yeah, it was... like when I realized that like 2 weeks ago. I was supposed to mention it last week. I forgot. But that was very dumb on my part. So it is what it is.
Speaking of Sofabaton, honestly, what I'm about to say is like the most unpolished it could possibly be because we completely don't know what details are going on. We don't have any of this stuff in hand, and this is very weird, but we wanted to give people a chance. Sofabaton very clearly is like clearing out X1S models. We know that new U3 model is going to be coming out in relatively short order, and it bears a lot of similarity to the X1S. It's the U3 is not hub-based. The X1S is hub-based, but of course the newest hub-based remote is the X2. And the X1S is just kind of falling into this middle ground at this point, and Sofabaton is definitely looking to clear some out. So we are doing a giveaway for at least one Sofabaton X1S. I say at least one because there's a possibility we're going to have more than one given away, but regardless, the way that you're going to enter with AVRant for the giveaway is going to be the same no matter what, and so we can definitely say there is one X1S for sure that we can give away, and we wanted to give people at least a couple of weeks notice to contact us and say, hey, I would like a free Sofabaton X1S. So question at avrant.com. That's going to be the way to enter for this giveaway. Very simply, just send us an email to question at avrant.com. There is absolutely no purchase necessary. You do not have to be a Patreon subscriber or anything like that. It is as simple as sending an email to question at avrant.com and saying to us, I would like to possibly win a Sofabaton X1S for free. That's really all. You just tell us you'd like a Sofabaton X1S, and we'll collect your names and do a completely random free draw for at least one Sofabaton X1S.
There you go.
In an undetermined amount of time for when we'll do that drawing. Most likely something in the 2 to 3 week range, but that's what it's as unpolished as it could possibly be. But yeah, there'll be at least one X1S.
I should set up an email that's like giveaway at avrant.com. You can use for that sort of thing.
Too late now. I said question to AVRant, and that's going to be the easiest way.
And as evidenced by our numbering system, the chances of me creating something new for this podcast right now seems to be exceedingly low. My personal life has gotten extremely busy. So it's just been kind of crazy around here.
Yeah.
And every time I think if things are going to settle down, my wife's like, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I'm going on, and this is actually happening. She's going to the conference for like 5 or 6 days next week. And I just found out about it. I was like, oh my God, What am I going to do? So yes, everything is, no matter what I try, when I think things are calming down, things don't. So, which, hey, keeps me on my toes. So that's exciting. What did you watch, Rob? I did not watch anything. This is from last week, isn't it?
Nope.
Oh, no, this is
2
the
weeks
next
ago,
one.
I mentioned one. That's right. Last week,
okay.
I watched something completely different, and it's gone out of my head already. But yeah, no, this week, I watched 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. Which they came out in rapid succession 28 years later, and then 28 years later, The Bone Temple. And so as I mentioned when I reviewed 28 Years Later, that movie just stopped. It got to the end of its runtime, and it absolutely did not conclude as a whole standalone story. It was very much like, it didn't literally say to be continued, but that is absolutely what went on at the end of 28 Years Later. And as you would expect, 28 years later, The Bone Temple picks up immediately after the end of 28 Years Later. It absolutely is part 2. And unbeknownst to me, it's even more of a part 2 versus like being a 2-parter. It's like, there's going to be a part 3, with the way they ended The Bone Temple. It wasn't quite as just abrupt and stop and like sudden. This sort of wraps up the story a little bit more of a true conclusion, but there's absolutely the setup for a part 3. And so yeah, this is all 3 parts are written by Alex Garland, and so it seems like maybe he just had a 300-page treatment, and they're like, well, we're not going to make a 300+ minute movie, so we're going to chop this thing up into 3 100-minute movies, and that's going to make a whole lot more sense. That's sort of the feeling of it. That said, we have a different director here for the Bone Temple. We've got Nia DaCosta stepping in to direct this one, and it's because they were shot in such rapid succession that, I just don't think there was sort of the logistics to do it any other way. So yeah, it doesn't quite have exactly the same directorial feel, but it's not jarringly different either. And the feeling of the Bone Temple is different from 28 Years Later. It's more of a direct, straightforward narrative. It's not that it is not metaphorical. It definitely is. The ending is certainly more metaphorical, but overall, it's a more direct, straightforward narrative. We're following really sort of 2 protagonists in this one. We're rejoining young 13-year-old Alfie from the first 28 Years Later, and we're continuing on with his story and what's going on with him and the new group of people that he's sort of teamed up with for survival purposes. And then we're also following Ralph Fiennes' character, who actually has constructed the Bone Temple. He's following him separately, and so we've got the 2 parallel stories going on, and of course they do meet, as you would expect. That's going on in this story, and yeah, I don't want to give too much away. But we really have a third lead introduced in this, which is played by Jack O'Connell. So he was the lead vampire in Sinners. And so he is another really quite despicable character in this 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. And honestly, I didn't even recognize him. I mean, he's got completely different hair and different clothing and everything like that. But I knew he was the lead vampire in Sinners. And I'm looking at his face and I'm like, it still doesn't look like the same guy. He did a remarkable job of not seeming like the exact same person or character whatsoever. I thought the performances in this were very strong again. We also have Erin Kellyman as sort of the next major supporting character. So she was in Captain America and the Winter Soldier or whatever. Falcon and Winter Soldier. The Disney Plus series. She was sort of the leader of the main antagonist group that they were going up against there. So she's in the Bone Temple as I guess you could sort of say the 4th lead. So yeah, it's really hard to say this is a horror movie. It is. There is a torture scene, a very explicit, gruesome torture scene. So for that reason, you can say that yeah, it falls into the horror category. But like, the whole infected population thing, the whole the infected as being the scary movie monsters is like it's getting less and less and less in these movies. They're really falling into the background, and so there's been some commentary from people online who are just like, where even are the zombies into the 28 Years Later franchise anymore? Like, I came here to see a zombie movie and like I got something completely different. And that is the case. This is not the movie I was even expecting, having seen 28 Years Later. It really goes in kind of different directions. I wouldn't say completely new and novel directions, but there is like a very clear thematic discussion that this movie is having. That's why I say where it's closer to being metaphorical. And this movie is focusing on can you come back from the brink of the worst that humanity can be? Is there a path back? That's really the question that's being asked here. And of course, using the infected as a metaphor for that, and then having that really kind of directly portrayed in what Alfie is going through and the group that he's joined up. That's the pivotal and central question of the Bone Temple is can you come back from the brink? And so I thought that, yeah, Ralph Fiennes' performance was really stellar in this. He gets to go kind of a bigger physical and much more theatrical performance than I've seen from him in a long time. And it all makes complete perfect sense if you're following the narrative. It's not that it comes out of left field or anything like that. But I just haven't seen that from Ralph Fiennes specifically in a long, long time. A really big out there performance, and he is more than up to the task. It was really quite a joy to see him completely let loose in a way I haven't seen him as an actor do on screen in quite some time. And so, yeah, I'm positive on this movie. I do have a little bit of hesitancy because if you're going in for a zombie movie, that's not what this is. It really is something very different. It's not a zombie movie anymore. It's asking different questions. Again, like I say, not exactly completely new and novel questions, but similar to 28 Years Later, I thought it did it well. It did it entertainingly, and it did it well, and there absolutely is still some gruesomeness to this movie. So, yeah, overall, I give it a thumbs up.
All right. A zombie movie with no zombies. Who would have guessed?
Pretty close.
I haven't watched crap, so
yeah.
There you go. I'm still. Right. I ran out. I got my speaker wire in last week. I started running speaker wire. I ran out of speaker wire. I never can. It's always not enough. It's always not enough. No matter how much I think I order, I'm like doing the calculations in my head. I'm like, this will be way more than I need.
I always say to get the 500-foot spool. You never are disappointed getting the 500-foot spool.
Well, yeah, I ended up buying a 100-foot spool twice.
Right, exactly.
Which is still cheaper than the 200.
Just before we leave this section, I forgot to mention one of our listeners of the week. They requested that to make sure that when I'm talking about what movies I reviewed, to mention where I watch them, what service. So this one I actually did as a rental off of Apple TV. That's how I watch, because it's not on any of the streaming services yet, so I did it as a rental from Apple TV.
Okay.
Oh, and I will say, there are some scenes where it's like, Apple TV, pretty good as far as video compression and that goes, but there are some exceedingly challenging out in a field with little flower petals and kind of a slow pan and stuff. I'm like, could have used a bit higher bit rate there, because that got a little bit choppy in some of those very fine details, even though Apple TV overall is pretty darn good. So yeah, that's one where if you watch it on the 4K Blu-ray or on Kaleidoscape, you won't be disappointed by getting the higher bit rate. Could be worth it.
All right, this is AVRant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask by emailing us at questionavrant.com. Come to the website, find our shows or show notes or links to any products or articles that we'll reference here, as well as a link to a Flickr album so you can follow along with the pictures that we are referencing. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant. The photos will be embedded in the YouTube stream. It's just our two talking heads.
It sure is.
That's because we are in different countries.
Oh, yes.
Can't do it side by side like some of those fancy new podcasts do.
Right. No studios here.
It's so hard to tell people you have a podcast now.
Yeah.
It used to be easy.
I know.
People would say, "What's that?" And I'd be like, "It's like a radio thing."
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And now you're like, "Oh." And then everybody moves away, takes a step back, like you just announced you have leprosy. Contact us directly, Rob at avrant.com. His socials is at First Reflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways you can do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and send us a PayPal donation. This week we had 2 people do that. That was Dan. It was the same Dan from before, a couple of weeks ago. Dan did this. As well as, Patricio? Patricio. So Dan and Patricio, thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. Dan and Patricio, thank you so much for those PayPal donations. Really appreciate that financial support. Very nice of you.
Some of your money has gone to buy speaker wire.
Right.
I'll tell you that right now. Trying to get this home theater set back up. It is. I realize that the NAD receiver can support 9 speakers, but it doesn't have amps for 9 speakers. So I had to go dig out some. I thought
it could do 11. I thought it could process 11.
Maybe it can process 11.
But with 7 amplifiers built in.
With 7 amplifiers built in, but I need 9. So
You do.
I had to dig out an amp. And
Flossy amp.
I had to order some. There's a Bass X somebody sent me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to get used for this.
Very nice.
If you want to support us monthly, instead of just one lump sum to PayPal, you can go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast. Sign up to become a monthly contributor, a minimum of $1 a month. So that's $12 a year for the joy of listening to our voices. Patreon.com/AVRant podcast. We currently have 121 patrons, including Kenneth, who says he loves the What We Watched segment, which should be retitled What Rob Watched.
I mean, not always.
Sometimes I do watch things.
Sometimes you weigh in. Yeah, that is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So big thanks to our 121 patrons over there. Kenneth, thank you so much for being one of them.
We've got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Henry, from Kev. Kev says he tries to drop references and links to us on the forums and the interwebs whenever he can, as much as the rules and mods will allow. Bill thanked us for discussing which not too expensive AV receiver he should buy. He went with the Denon X1700H. He bought it refurbished directly from Denon. They had the best price, under $500 even after tax. And he was an AVRant listener back in the Dina days, but ever since his work changed and he's no longer driving all day like he used to, he hasn't been listening to as many podcasts. I don't blame you, dude.
Yeah.
So he's kind of happy he wound up needing a new receiver. AVRant back in the rotation. Whoa.
Hooray.
Note the
oh, yes, this was a note to me. Yes, yeah. I just wanted to mention how last week when we were answering that question, I was talking about how with the 9-channel processing capable Onkyo TX NR7100, that one of the things I like to point out is that it can do Dolby Atmos virtualization, height virtualization. So you can have 5 physical speakers, but then be virtualizing 4 overhead speakers, and that's one of the reasons I really like to recommend the NR7100 from Onkyo, but that was above the price that he wanted to pay. I just wanted to make it explicit that the X1700H from Denon can also do Dolby Atmos height virtualization. It's just that it will only virtualize 2 overhead channels. It won't virtualize 4, so it'll mimic as though you had top middles essentially, or perhaps top fronts. So you'll get some mimicry of overhead sounds, even though you physically don't have 6th and 7th overhead speakers. You still just have 5 floor level speakers, physically speaking. But yeah, so it won't mimic the front to back steering, but it will mimic the overhead and side to side steering. So you can still give it a try. And then the main reason I like to recommend that people do use Dolby Atmos height virtualization, it's not even so much to get the sense of overhead sounds. It's that if you're streaming, which of course a lot of us are, the highest quality, highest bit rate audio signal that you can get from all the streamers is the Dolby Atmos signal. The Dolby Atmos signal comes in at a higher bit rate than the regular standard 5.1 Dolby Digital Plus or the stereo audio signal that you can get. Those are more highly compressed at a lower bit rate. The higher bit rate comes in the form of the Dolby Atmos signal. So I like being able to utilize that Dolby Atmos signal. And if you only have 5 physical speakers, the only way you can do that is by activating that Dolby Atmos height virtualization. So I think it's well worth it. And the X1700H can do it. It just doesn't have front to back virtualization. That's all.
There you go.
Yeah.
We got notes of gratitude from Brandon, Ren, and his brother Ray, Karl, and Karl can totally relate to my back problems, so he's sending positive vibes, and he hopes physiotherapy goes well. He also enjoyed seeing Rob's Lego Enterprise, and he's sad that Starfleet Academy is getting canceled after season 2. So am I. I understand it's a very good series.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to support Paramount in any way whatsoever, so I have not been subscribed to Paramount Plus in quite some time, and I have not watched Starfleet Academy. I would like to watch that show. I like the show and the people behind it, but I do not like Paramount, so yeah.
Patricio and Sasi. So here's all the people who said notes of gratitude. Henry, Kev, Bill, Brandon, Ren, Ray, Karl, Patricio, and Sasi. Thank you for thanking us.
Yeah, I'll say the names one more time. We got Henry, Kev, Bill, Brandon, Ren, Ray, Karl, Patricio, and Sasi. Thank you all so much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
Why is this name so hard to say? All right, in the news, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, announced he'll be stepping down on September 1st, and John Turnus, you have it spelled 2 different ways.
Do I?
Yes.
The first way is correct.
Okay, Turnus has been named the new CEO.
Oh, that's a weird autocorrect that happened
there's
there.
There's an A in there for some reason.
That absolutely was not supposed to be there. That was
then another T. Or what's happening? I'm confused. Anyways, Turnus has been with Apple for over 20 years and currently serves as a senior VP of hardware hardware engineering. I will say that Turnus was not hard to say. The misspelling was nearly impossible for me to sound out.
I don't know where that came from. It's just John Turnus. It's not such a crazy
good.
name.
We have another one. John Shroji?
I'm not actually. I haven't heard his name said out loud. So yeah,
S-R-O-U-J-I. S-R-O-U-J-I. So your guess is as good as mine. Johnny Shroji will replace Turnus in that role and is immediately shifting into that position so they can work together for a smooth transition. Tim Cook is not retiring in full, and he's not leaving Apple. He will become the executive chairman. Boy, that sounds like somebody who doesn't really do anything. Just shows up.
Sounds like he's still getting quite the paycheck, though, doesn't it?
I would imagine that's the case. I am telling you, there should be a law passed that there's a multiple of the lowest paid employee that the highest paid employee can get. That's my. I will die on that hill.
Yeah.
If you want to pay your CEO $1 billion, then your lowest paid employee has to make it some reasonable multiple, even if it's like 1,000 times less, like divided by 1,000.
Right.
They all have. That's how that has to work. In my mind, I will die on that hill. So I'm sure somebody out there is immediately unsubscribing because I said that. And good riddance, sir. Or ma'am.
So yeah, unlike the executive turnovers in the Xbox division of Microsoft, there's no weirdness about this. This is a very well structured, well planned, calculated.
Man doesn't want to do as much work anymore. But he still wants to get a big paycheck.
Sure does.
Come on. Come on. Who hasn't in that book?
But just a notable thing in the tech and to some degree home theater industry, Apple is definitely something that we talk about in the home theater side of things quite frequently. So it's worth a mention, and it's been a long tenure that Tim Cook has had. Certainly business wise, it's hard to argue that he hasn't had a successful tenure there at Apple.
They did release that sleeve thing for the.
I don't
it's
think
not all been hits. I'll put it to you that way.
I don't think that took the $4 trillion company down, Tom. They seem to be surviving despite that.
Optoma announced a new DLP projector model aimed at taking on Sony, JVC, and Epson in the under 10 grand market. How is that even a number? Anyways, the new Optoma HCPro-5400 is priced at $8 grand, with its main claim to fame being its 5,000 ISO lumen RGB triple laser light engine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so looking forward to having to say that over and over again.
Yes. Yeah, they're going for bright.
Just kill me. I swear.
They're going for bright 5,000 lumen output, and this is a triple laser light engine. And I mean, we've had other laser light engines where it's like dual laser, but both lasers are actually blue, and then one of them is activating a yellow phosphor. Or we've had triple laser light engines, but it's 2 blue and 1 red. That's been quite a common thing. So this is actual individual red, green, and blue lasers, each of them completely individual. It is going to be sequential. This is still a single chip projector, so it's not 3-chip DLP, but that's part of why the price is up there at $8,000. It is actual individual red, green, and blue lasers, which does cost more, and then going for the 5,000 lumens, which is a little bit unusual for a consumer-sized, this isn't some gigantic or liquid-cooled or anything like that. So going for that kind of light output with an actual RGB laser is why this is priced at $8,000.
Yeah. Well, who would have guessed I would pine for the days when they would just put a lowercase I on the front of something whenever they would upgrade it. And now it's like we have to add more words because more words means more better. And I'm just like tongue-tied by the end of these podcasts. Anyways, it uses a single 0.65-inch 1080p DLP chip that gets wobbled 4 times per frame for genuine 4K resolution on screen. There does not appear to be any 4K 120 support, but it can display 1080p at 240 hertz with a low 8.5 millisecond latency. The RGB triple laser allows it to cover 98% of DCI P3 color and 96% of BT 2020. And its lens adjustment range is on the larger size for a DLP projector with a 1.6 times zoom in both vertical and horizontal lens shift, which makes for an easy setup.
Yes.
Optoma also went in for all the logo stickers, so it officially supports Dolby Vision and IMAX Enhanced along with the HDR10 Plus in filmmaker mode. It also has WISA built in so it can connect to WISA wireless speakers. Can you imagine spending $8,000 on a projector and then just connecting it to some rando speakers?
Not necessarily rando, although the number of WISA supported speakers out there is kind of getting hard to find. For a while, Klipsch was on board. For a while, AVRant was on board, but they're not anymore.
A shame.
So
I like WISA. I think WISA was a really good solution.
It seems to kind of be LG. LG is maybe the biggest backer of WISA right now. So I guess you're adding some LG speakers to your Optoma projector.
I suppose. I mean, it should start shipping in June.
Yeah.
So I guess.
That's just to say that model number again is the Optoma HCPro-5400.
Yeah. I feel like Optoma, I don't like the way it's spelled. Like it's too many O's. Like that middle O should be a different vowel. I don't know why I feel that way. And like it should be an I think. Optoma. I don't know.
I mean,
it just always looks misspelled to me. So. PerListen announced a whole new series of speakers, the PerListen X series. There we are.
Yep.
There it is. When they upgrade, it's going to be lowercase IX series. The new X series mostly borrows from their entry level, quote unquote, A series with silk dome tweeters and carbon fiber woofers. They don't have the DPC array of S series or R series, of the S series or R series, but the tweeter is still in the waveguide with the woofers positioned as close as possible via grills that curve into part of the waveguide itself. And we kind of buried the lead here. The X series are on-wall speakers. They all use a vibration dampening mounting plate that provides 4 spokes that protrude from the wall PerListen.
So there's a plate that you screw into the wall.
On this link. So for those of you who are just as confused as I am right now, I am clicking on the picture because I have no idea what that means.
Yes. You can see it on the X series mounting plate. So the flat part of the plate goes against the wall. You secure it to the wall with 4 screws. And then there are like 4 skinny little spindle spoke poles that stick out. So it's like you've got 4 little poles sticking out at a right angle from your wall, and then those are going to slot.
Those just go into the back of the speaker?
They just go into each of those speakers. You can see 4 holes on them, and those line up with the spokes.
And then do you lock it down, or is it just sit there?
You haven't got read to that part yet.
All right. Spoke of the protrude from the wall. PerListen says this allows you to easily steady the X series speakers on the ends of the spikes while you connect the speaker wires, and then you push the speakers back against the wall and secure them on the front with screws. They also provide a mount with a 10-degree built-in angle, and you can safely mount them on the ceiling because you're securing them to the post. That makes sense. Or angled high up on your wall thanks to those screws on the front holding everything very securely. The largest X5W, it's a lowercase w because of course it is.
Yeah.
It is a 3-way design priced at $2,000 each. It has 4 5.5-inch carbon woofers, with 2 being used as dedicated mid-range drivers. All of the X series speakers are sealed, but they're spec'd at 60 hertz extension. They all are 4 ohm rated, and the X5W has 92 dB sensitivity at 2.83 volts.
Yes, but that is 4 ohm impedance. So if you were comparing it to an 8 ohm rating, then it's essentially 89 dB. Nothing's overly sensitive about that. But for an on-wall speaker, reasonably high sensitivity, and then a deeper bass extension. I mean, when PerListen says minus 3 dB point, that is genuine. That is true. They don't mess around with their measurements or their specs. So a little bit deeper extension than you might expect from an on-wall speaker, and a little bit higher sensitivity, but nothing completely out of the ordinary here.
And this has got like 2 mid-ranges, 1 on each side, and then 2 woofers on the outside of the speaker.
Yep.
So it's
all of those woofers are actually the same woofers. Just 2 of them have the grills because it's all integrated with the waveguide around that silk dome tweeter.
The X3W is $1,800 each, and a 2-way design with a woofer on either side of the tweeter, 89 dB sensitivity at 2.38 volts, 4 ohms. You subtract 3 if you want to know what the sensitivity is at 8 ohms. The X2W is $1,500 each and has a single woofer with an 88 dB sensitivity. And there's also an in-ceiling model, the X2IC, the I and the C are both lowercase, also priced at $1,500 each. And I have a hard time looking at that to IC and thinking that's worth $1,500. I'm sorry. Just doesn't look like enough of a speaker.
One thing I do like about it is that it's a fully integrated backer box on that. Yeah. So it comes as a completely sealed speaker, and there's no separate backer box to buy. I like that PerListen does that.
Yeah, the same 200-watt power handling into 4 ohms as all the other models, and they'll be shipping this summer. I don't know, $1,500 for that thing. I mean, these are all pretty pricey. Just in general, these are pretty pricey. But you can see, if you look at the front of the speakers, you can see where the screws will attach in order to secure them to those posts. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I like the mounting method. I think that's a nice, secure, because these are not lightweight speakers. Part of the cabinet is aluminum, and the rest is HDF. So these are not lightweight in any way. You want a very secure way of mounting these speakers, and they include the 10-degree angle one in the the regular forward-facing ones. That's included in there if you want to have a little bit of a toe in any way. So yeah, I mean, clearly you can rotate these speakers, every 90-degree orientation that you might want to. Although I don't know what difference that would make besides the positioning of the speaker binding posts if you rotated them 180 degrees or 270. But yeah, regardless, I like a lot of the designs that are here. But yeah, these aren't like world beaters in terms of, raw output capability. 200 watts power handling, again, for an on-wall speaker, a little bit higher than normal. Everything here is like a touch higher than normal, the sensitivity, the bass extension, the power handling, but it's not so much so that this is like really changing the game in terms of on-wall speakers. So yeah, it's going to be a fairly narrow niche where the price to performance ratio on these makes a ton of sense. But yeah, that's what's the latest from PerListen.
Yeah, I mean, you can technically rotate the speakers after you install the mounting plate, but the mounting plate has a cutout for the hole for the
That's right.
the wires to come through in the wall.
Right, yeah. That's where it would line up with the speaker binding posts.
So, this is not an on-wall speaker that you could... It doesn't look like an on-wall speaker where you could run the speaker wire up the wall on the outside.
No, it needs to be
you
behind.
have to run it in the wall in order to do this. It's definitely got some adjustability there as far as where you have to install the hardware in order to connect it to the wall itself. It's not like just like 4 holes that you have to put the 4 screws into. There's like channels, which is kind of nice. The whole thing looks pretty good.
Yeah, I have no doubt that these are held securely on the wall. That much seems very clear. And then, it is available in both a black and a white finish. So that's kind of nice.
Mm. All right. Despite having shot Avengers Doomsday on IMAX certified digital cameras, the film won't debut on IMAX screens because Doom Part 3 is releasing at the same time, and they secured a 3-week exclusive IMAX run thanks to having shot the entire film on IMAX film cameras and everybody knowing that thing is absolutely going to murder at the box office. Dune Part... there is no world in which I would... If somebody said to me, which movie should we put on our biggest screen? And those were the 2 options. I'd be like, any day of the week, I would have said Avengers Doomsday would have been it, but not up against Dune 3. Yep. I'm sorry. You just can't. You can't compare them. The first 2 were, it's going to draw a huge crowd. Disney will be releasing Avengers Doomsday in premium large format theaters, but they aren't happy about losing out on the IMAX marketing. So we can enter Disney Infinity Vision. Whatever the heck that is. It's the largest screens, laser projection, and premium, fully immersive sound. In any words, any of the existing 400 or so laser projection premium large format theaters, no actual changes. You don't have to change the theater. It's just, hey, it's going to be on the big screen, which it was going to be anyways. But they get to market it as something new, I guess. It's Infinity Vision. Who needs IMAX, right?
This is a pure marketing play. There's not actually any change to these theaters, whether there'll be any branding that the theaters actually put up. If I were a theater owner, I'd be like, hey, Disney, if you want to supply it, I'll put a little standee outside the theater, but I'm not going to, as a theater owner, I wouldn't pay anything extra because the theater itself has not changed at all. This is a pure marketing thing, Infinity Vision from Disney.
So I was watching a video of somebody, like a social media video of somebody watching WandaVision for the first time.
Okay.
And they kind of like cut it up, and got the person's reactions as it was going on. And I sort of vicariously remembered what it was like to watch that series for the first time. And I cannot tell you how much I love that series. I cannot express it in words, how important that series is to me personally, especially at the time it was released and everything that was going on in the world.
Yeah.
So I cannot, there's, in my mind, from, all the movies that I've watched, all the series that I've watched from Marvel, the Marvel stuff that I've watched, there's a lot of goodwill built up in me that I'm like, I will give them a lot of grace because, yes, some of the movies haven't been as good. The ones that people, there's a whole industry around crapping on things, and I refuse to participate in that or pay attention to it. So, most of the series and the things that people are like, oh, Disney ruined this and Disney ruined that and Kathleen Kennedy is the worst. I'm just like, you guys are all terrible and you should shut up. And most of the stuff you think is the worst is not the worst. It's actually pretty good. And give it a little time and you're going to think it's pretty good too. Just like when I went and saw The Phantom Menace in the theaters, I walked out and I went, that was all right. And then immediately people started saying it was the worst.
That was prior to the true internet age. We didn't really have that going on at that time.
That was. But then nowadays, there's people out there like, this is my favorite Star Wars movie because they were at an age when they saw it that it just blew their minds, just like Star Wars blew our minds. And I remember walking out of the theater, I will never stop saying this, when Empire Strikes Back came out and people were like, what the actual heck, except they didn't use the word heck. And they were not happy. No one was happy. But now suddenly it's the best one. It's the best one. Not at the time it wasn't.
I still say the original Star Wars is my favorite of all the Star Wars. It honestly is.
I can get behind that. And I can get behind a lot of things. I'll be honest with you. So I am still tentatively excited about Doomsday. I hate to say it. I am excited that this movie is coming out. I'm looking forward to it. I still think Marvel can do it. I still think they can. And if they can't, they can't. It's fine.
No, I think, objectively, like this is the first, fully titled Avengers movie since Endgame. We haven't had one that
Thunderbolts was great.
Yeah, but I mean, that wasn't really called an Avengers movie, prior going in.
I'm talking about it as a Marvel property.
Sure.
It was a great movie. I love it.
But I think objectively speaking, we can say it's not even a subjective judgment here. Like this Avengers Doomsday, the lead up to it has not been as well organized as the original Avengers movies. This has been a little bit more scattershot. It's been a longer time. Like, how long has it been since we've seen Shang-Chi, right? Like, he's going to be in this movie. It's like, are some people even going to remember that he's a character? It's like, it hasn't been as well organized, but there's been so many changes that have gone on. I mean, they went through the whole pandemic thing. They changed CEOs at Disney twice. They've had like mergers since then and complete changes in like complete direction of the company, right? When Chapek was in there, everything was going to be Disney Plus, and they went all that way, and they're like, whoa, we're not making the money, go in that direction, about face and turn it around. And so, there's been a lot of upheaval going on there. And overall, I am absolutely looking forward to seeing it. I don't think I'm going to have the same emotional connection as we did going into Infinity War. There's really no way, no how. But I don't disagree with the theaters. I'm like, Dune 3, that should be in the IMAX theaters. That's the one that should be in the IMAX.
There's just no world in which you don't put Dune 3 on the IMAX. There's just no world where it doesn't happen. Comments from our listener, Infinite Gary. Wouldn't you know it? Gary did find another old Panasonic product in his basement. I don't understand how this became a thing that we're doing. This has got to be the last
This
one.
is short.
Not quite as esoteric as the last two, but definitely a blast from the past and still brand new, basically. Never been used, about 45 years old. The Panasonic Mr. Whiskey battery-operated shaver. Yeah, there you go. Something tells him it's past the warranty period, though. Yeah, probably.
Yes. Prominently displayed on the sticker that it's a 1-year limited warranty, and being 45 years old.
I'm starting to think that Gary might live in a hoarder house, even though
could be a little bit.
It's now sounding that way.
At least a Panasonic battery shaver is not unusual whatsoever. I, to this day, use a Panasonic battery shaver.
That probably actually takes batteries. You probably don't plug it in. You probably actually put a D battery in the back of the thing.
Well, not a D, but it certainly has the form factor that like 4 AAAs could easily be sitting in the back of that thing. It would not surprise me whatsoever. But yes, a Panasonic shaver is not an unusual Panasonic product, at least.
Get to the questions here finally. Henry appreciated our discussion last week regarding the expected lamp life of his JVC NP5 projector. He's had it for a couple of years now with some quick back-of-the-napkin math. At the rate he uses it, basically 1 or 2 movies per week, even if he starts to notice it dimming at 1,000 hours, he should still get another 3 years out of it, and that's on a 120-inch screen. By the time that comes, he might be ready for a display upgrade anyway. So with that in mind, do we think it's worthwhile to pre-purchase a replacement lamp ahead of time just to have it on hand? I mean, the MP5 is still a current model.
Well, no, it has been discontinued at this point.
Has it really? Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I don't think they're manufacturing any more of them. You can still find them to purchase, but they're not the easiest anymore. If you go at a lot of projector screen or projector people or whatnot, it's not so easy to find anymore. So yeah, NP5 is a little bit past the current lineup. So my honest feeling is I do still think it's worth having it on hand for a couple of reasons. First is if something ever goes wrong with the lamp that you have in there, then you're going to be thankful that you have the thing on hand. But also, if 2 to 3 years from now you decide I would like to upgrade, it's like being able to sell that used projector of yours, MP5, with a brand new lamp to the next owner is a selling point. We don't know how much longer it's going to be super easy to still get replacement lamps specifically for that one. So I don't think you would regret having the spare lamp on hand. Either you're going to run into a scenario where you do end up using it yourself, or you, like I say, going to be able to sell it to the next owner with that completely brand new lamp. It's not that the lamp sitting in storage is going to go bad. So I think it's worth having it still, is my opinion.
Yeah, so I went to my projector lamps, and I think the JVC, it's a DLA NP5 projector lamp with modules, like $170 right now. I
mean, clearly that's not the OEM one, right? That'll be the third-party one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who it's by, but it fits in a whole bunch of stuff. It looks like whatever this lamp is. Suitable projectors. What is this one? In Focus one is also $170. Whatever. So it's not a huge expenditure of money. They shouldn't go bad if you just got them lying around. But like Rob said, if something goes, the one thing I will say is just be a little careful to make sure that you get the lamp that has the whole kit and caboodle with it.
With the housing, not just the bare bulb. Yeah.
I've gotten bare bulbs before. You can do them. It's not brain surgery, depending on the projector that you have. But it's often a lot more stressful, and any mistake, it's very hard to mess up putting a new module in. You just put it in.
The module is very straightforward. And if you do end up selling it to the next owner, I would definitely want to sell them one that's got the housing, not just a bare bulb, and expect them to change that themselves.
Yeah. So as mentioned, his screen size is 120 inches. He settled on that size a long time ago, before HDR projectors were even a thing. And as long as he is still living in his current apartment, no intentions of moving it anytime soon, it really is the size that he strongly prefers for his current setup and seeing distance. We mentioned that MP5 is best suited for around 100 to 110 inch screen, and that it really doesn't have the light output capabilities for, say, a 150 to 160 inch screen. He guesses that means that he is pushing it a bit at 120, and maybe he's getting HDR light instead of the full HDR experience. So he's toyed with the idea of switching over to a 98-inch flat panel. They become remarkably affordable, but he does have concerns about mounting such a large TV on the wall in his apartment. It has metal studs inside his walls, not wood studs. And since he would want to extend the smaller screen out from the wall in order to achieve something closer to his preferred field of view, he doesn't feel confident in mounting a 125-pound screen that way, let alone whatever a 115-inch TV might weigh. And Rob has a note here. It's about 220 pounds. So.
Yep, that's what's listed for the 115-inch QM891G that I still like to recommend from TCL. That's a 220-pound 115-inch TV.
So his room is blacked out with no light getting in whatsoever. Mounting a projector on a screen is easy, and even though he's had an OLED TV, there's just something inherently different about looking at a projected image. It's hard to explain. Yeah, it's not as good. There you go. But it's bigger. So when the time comes in about 3 years, what do we foresee as his most reasonable display upgrade path? Well, 3 years is a long time, and you may not be in the same place as you are right now, but let's pretend that you are. Sure. Yeah, I agree with you. Wall mounting something that heavy to metal studs, which are not easy to deal with to begin with, can be kind of problematic. It's an apartment, so you don't have many options. If it were me, I'd get a piece of furniture and set it down on top of that furniture and move it forward a little bit,
right.
And then that would be the solution. The big problem I've had with my TV is that while it says it's level, it never looks level to me.
I mean, maybe the rest of your room isn't perfectly level.
Might
so
be the rest of the room
level,
that might not be level, but if the TV is a little bit swiveled, like the distance between the optical distance, meaning when you look at it, the distance between the bottom of the TV and the furniture doesn't look right. So you have to get it dead on straight and compare. And then below it has to be dead on straight. Everything has to be dead on straight. So it always looks a little bit off to me, which doesn't bother me when I'm watching the TV unless I pay attention to it, which I often do, and it drives me nuts. So that's the only quote unquote downside, if you will. But I would put it on the stand. That's just what it comes down to.
I mean, my prediction is that I think it's going to make the most sense to go with a flat panel. Like, we're definitely seeing trend-wise that projectors are not getting cheaper, and we're seeing big split stratification. There's really not anything in the middle anymore, right? We're either getting the very expensive projectors that are, $10,000 plus, and they perform exceedingly well, but they're up at that sort of price point, in which case 3 years from now, I mean, we can already get 115-inch flat panels that are at the $10,000 price point. I think that price will continue to come down. So I think in 3 years' time, you're going to be able to get a 115-inch for certainly $7,500. I think that's a very reasonable prediction to make. And so then you've got to be like, okay, well, what's a $7,500 projector in performance versus a 115-inch flat panel that I could get for $7,500 in 3 years from now? That's, what I would sort of expect to see anyway. And then, 98-inch TVs, they're only going to keep coming down in price and keep being even more popular. So if you're able to make the transition sit, essentially 2 feet closer, whether that's moving the seat 2 feet closer, moving the TV 2 feet closer, or each of them moves a foot closer to each other, but you're replicating the field of view that you had with your 120-inch screen by having a 98-inch screen 2 feet physically closer to you. And there's multiple different ways to achieve that. I do think a flat panel is going to make the most sense. If you're really it just doesn't I can tell it looks different than a projector. It's like, well, turn off the local dimming and set the brightness way down, or the light output way down. Because I mean, what makes the projector look like a projector is that it has lower contrast and worse black levels. Like that's the difference.
Pretty much it.
It's dimmer. It has worse contrast, and the black levels are not truly black. Even on the JVCs, it's not as black as an OLED for sure. And then even with a full array local dimming LCD TV, when that goes fully black, it goes fully black. The JVC never goes fully 100% black. But yeah, you can replicate that look to a certain degree. Turn off the local dimming.
So, there's psychology that goes on here, and we have products that we have and we like, and we spent money on them, and we are invested in making sure that we don't feel like we wasted our money. And what happens and we both argue against it and then take advantage of it here on this podcast, because if somebody, oftentimes people say, projectors just have a look that you just can't deny. It's so much different, so much better. And then, and we're like, yeah, you're just saying that because you own a projector and you don't want to.
I mean, I gotta say, when I go to the laser IMAX theater that I prefer to go to see the movies, I'm looking at it's a very big screen, and the auditorium is so much larger than my place. Like, that's undeniable. Yeah. But I'm looking at that laser IMAX, and I'm like, honest to goodness, that looks like an LCD TV to me at this point. Yeah. Like, that's what it looks like. It looks like an LCD TV.
So when you're in your own home with your own projector, your brain will protect your ego from the fact that you are looking at this, and you have to believe it's good. So when those people eventually do buy a large LCD, a large TV LCD or OLED or whatever, and then get the same-ish field of view, inevitably they come back and say, "Oh my God, I didn't think it was going to. I was going to like it as much because it's not a projector, but I love it so much and it's so much better." Blah blah blah. So then we're like, "Yes, we were right the whole time." Blah blah. But we're taking advantage of that psychology too, because now they've bought a new thing and they have to convince them they're not doing it on purpose, but their brain has to convince them that they didn't just waste a bunch of money. That's part of it.
You also get used to being able to have some lights on without the image quality drastically changing. You get used to that real quick. Like I definitely prefer to have my theater dim, but I'm like, yeah, honestly, I'm very okay with it not being pitch black. Like every time I watch a movie, it has to be pitch black. I'm like, I'm very okay with that not being the case.
I've forgotten what it feels like to have a projector.
Right.
Because my room was completely blacked out at my old house. In my new house, it's, there's windows and I don't have curtains up and there's all kinds of, and it's not gray, it's white. So, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. But we take advantage of it, and we also argue against it constantly. So I hear what you're saying about projectors having an undeniable look about them. It's undeniably worse than a flat panel. It just is undeniable. And if you owned neither, and we put you in a room with both, 100 out of 100 times you would point at the flat panel and go, "That's the better one." You just would. That is an undeniable fact.
But
so,
for this setup that he's talking about, like personally, I've never been in love with wall mounting TVs. I've always preferred the idea of not having it physically attached to the wall. So even if you're going for easily a 98-inch, but even the 115-inch, one thing that I really like is a 3-in-1 TV stand. That's kind of my favorite way to approach this. And there are heavy-duty ones. I'm showing an example of a $240 one, which honestly, not that crazy for a nice TV stand. But $240, and this is a heavy-duty one. They say it'll hold up to a 100-inch TV, but this could hold one of the 115s because it can hold 220 pounds. And it has the larger 800 by 600 Visa pattern built right into it. This is just one example. It's not the only one, but it was just showing that such things do exist. And then if you're not happy with the type of stand that is, attached at the bottom of it, I do like looking at the universal TV stands. It allows you to swivel instead of relying on the, widespread feet that come with most of the TVs these days. You pick your choice of TV cabinet, and then you get a central pedestal stand that can swivel. I'm pointing to one that will not so much hold the 115-inch, but this can hold one of the 98 inches, 143 pound. Again, it's a heavy duty one, only $90, right? So this does not have to break the bank whatsoever. And you can have a solution that without you even noticing how much closer the screen is to your eyes, it looks completely natural when it's standing on one of these stands or on one of the universal tabletop stands. It's like, it looks completely natural, but it's easily a foot closer to your eyes. And you can adjust that field of view very much so that way without having to rely on a articulating wall mount.
There you go. Kevin has a 7-channel amp. He doesn't want to put the brand on blast, but it's a fairly beefy amp with an internal blade design for each of the 7 channels. And there's more than one manufacturer that does that. So
yes.
Yeah. Don't think that the one that you know of is the one he's talking about.
And then, very often the OEM behind several brands is you'll find very similar designs under different brand names. Yes.
So a couple of years ago, one of the channels went bad and stopped working, but since the other 6 channels were still functioning seemingly just fine, he was able to carry on with a Fosse amp powering his surround backs, and he left it as is. So he relies on the 12-volt trigger to power the amp on and off along with his pre-pro, and the amp is left in standby when not in use. One night, he watched a movie and then put the amp in standby via the 12-volt trigger. Just like always, in the morning, he heard a loud pop sound all the way from upstairs, and soon after, he could smell burning plastic. He did not instantly think of the amp, so he actually called the fire department since he didn't know exactly where the smell was coming from. After they arrived, he noticed the red light on the amp indicating it had gone into protection mode, and it was literally hot to the touch. The smell lingered in the house for days afterwards, and if I remember correctly from his email, he had to call a house scrubber person.
They did a remediation, just to be sure. Didn't want any toxic fumes in there, just in case.
So a couple of questions have run through his mind. So was this just a freak thing, or is it actually kind of common occurrence with high wattage amplifiers? It's a freak thing. It doesn't happen a lot.
Pretty close, yeah. It's not unheard of. It's certainly not unheard of. You're not the first and only to ever have an amplifier module with a pop and a bad burning smell. It is not unheard of, but it is not something I would say is a common occurrence whatsoever. No.
He asks, does this indicate poor quality or poor quality control by the amp's manufacturers? That protection mode didn't seem to do anything to protect the amp. It literally popped and smoked and nearly caught on fire. So my guess, and I don't know what it is that actually happened here, but the most plausible explanation is that a capacitor, which was holding power, failed. And when it did, it exploded, which they're wont to do. And then that energy was released in the form of heat, and it melted a bunch of stuff and maybe caught a little bit of fire. And that's what happened here. Does that mean that the amp's manufacturer has poor quality control? I mean, things fail. That is, tolerances within manufacturing it's not like they're themselves manufacturing every little diode that's in.
Absolutely not.
Within the amp. They buy from somebody else who supplies them with the capacitors and the circuit boards and power supplies and stuff like that. They may build some of that stuff themselves, but chances are they're at best assembling, and maybe just designing and having somebody else assemble for them, and then the whole thing comes over from whatever country it might be, aka China. So is it a problem with the amp manufacturer? I don't really think so. I think this is just something that unfortunately happens sometimes. There's a problem with the manufacturing process. It wasn't caught, or it was still within tolerances as it was tested, but then something went wrong and it went. And that's unfortunate, but I would not take this as an indictment against the company.
Definitely not. No. Like we say, this is kind of a freak thing, but a blown capacitor could happen to anybody. They're in every electronic thing, and it like I say, it's actually remarkably few times that a capacitor blows. It's like when you think of how many are out there in the world and the number of times it happens, it's a shockingly small percentage. But
what is a battery but a capacitor? And there's batteries and everything. And,
they are different, but there's similarities between capacitors and battery cells. And we've certainly seen battery fires, and it's not a completely dissimilar thing that can happen with a capacitor. So that is the most likely one. But also, this one amplifier channel has not been working for some time. There was a failure of some kind.
There was already a little bit of a sign that there was a problem here, and you were like, "Oh well, I won't use it anymore, and therefore that'll fix it." But it was still plugged in, and it was still plugged in, getting power, and it was still trying to be ready to do the thing it was designed to do. This is not in any way shifting blame no, because I've
done this I don't know how many times and like the analogy I always like to make is it's the check engine light on your car, right? The check engine light comes on, but the car is still running. It's not like it stopped running. It starts every day. It still keeps going, but there's a check engine light on. And how many people have ignored that check engine light for years sometimes, but then eventually something catastrophically fails because that's why the check engine light. And they're always
surprised.
So it's like
it was working fine yesterday. Well, how long's the check engine light been on? 3 years. Okay, well, it's only a matter of time.
So, this doesn't have a check engine light. It doesn't have a check amp light, but you had a channel that was non-functioning for some time. The rest of the amp was going along seemingly just fine, but then eventually it was the amp channel that had already stopped working. That's the one that blew. So there's been a problems for some time. It's been heating and cooling, and electricity has been running through that circuitry for quite some time, and finally it failed catastrophically. Again, we're not saying this is something that I myself might not have done absolutely the same thing in your situation. That's not what we're saying. There. But to say like, oh, this brand can't be, he's not saying that. He's asking, right? I'm like, but asking. Like to say this brand can't be trusted, or that the design of this amplifier is faulty altogether. Like, no, this was a unusual circumstance. It actually kind of gave you a warning sign to begin with that something wasn't right here, and it took some time until it catastrophically failed. So I place exceedingly, I would say no blame on the brand or the design of this amplifier. This was a freak thing that unfortunately happened to you.
Well, the other thing he asked is about protection mode. And protection mode is designed to protect your gear on the other side for the most part of the amplifier.
Protection mode means there is a short circuit. That's what it means. Like we say, most commonly, it's a single strand of speaker wire that ventured across and formed an arc, but it means there's a short circuit. So protection mode didn't go on in this amplifier until there was a short circuit, and yours was not on the binding posts. Yours was somewhere in the circuitry of the amplifier itself, but there was a short, which again, I think lends to the notion that this might have been even a leaking capacitor, right? There's a little leak, the electrolyte is coming out, and eventually just enough of a little dribble made its way across part of the circuitry that's like, pop, bang, there's a short circuit, and it failed catastrophically at that point.
So it's the amp is still within its warranty period, but the whole affair has him feeling gun-shy about the brand and the amp. Should he honestly pursue a warranty claim, or just run from this brand and amp and be thankful the whole situation then turned out even worse? There's no world in which I would not contact that manufacturer. And then, let them know, hey, I just didn't think it would be a problem to keep using it, even though one of the amp channels had gone bad. Because they're going to say, well, why didn't you call us? You're going to be...
They might ask, were there any signs of failure prior to this? Yeah, and I mean, I suppose you could lie to them, but we're not going to say that you should do that. You should tell the truth. So, I mean, there might be the case that they deny your warranty claim, and I wouldn't necessarily really be against the company if they did that. If you tell the full truth and they deny the warranty claim, I'd be like, that's unfortunate. I would wish for you as a consumer, of course, that they take care of you, and maybe they will. But if they said no, I wouldn't really hold that against them. Then again, if they say no and you say, well, I'm done with you as a brand, like, I'm not going to blame you for that either. But all around here, I'm like, I don't really think that you can hold it against them too much. I certainly wouldn't, and I'm not going to be telling other people to, avoid this brand because of this one incident or something like that.
No, for sure. And their leg to stand on in this is, hey, if you had sent it to us when the one channel had gone out, we would have fixed that one channel, replaced that one blade, and you would have been fine.
And I definitely believe they would have and should have. They absolutely should have under warranty. If you're running this amplifier and one of the amplifier channels stops working, but the rest of the amp is still functioning, it's like, absolutely they should take care of that under warranty, no cost to you.
But then if you sat on it the way that you did, and then it catches on fire and damages other parts of the amplifier, then is that now on you? I don't know. You could make an argument both ways. They could argue one way. Most companies, I think, will just be like, okay, we'll just take care of this.
And because it is so rare, this is not happening on a regular basis. So, that's the hope.
Yeah. So lastly, he asks, would switching over to a Class D amplifier make something like this much less likely to ever happen again? And I mean, they still have capacitors, my dude.
They
I
sure
hate to break it to you.
Some very big ones sometimes.
In fact, if you're trying to get away from capacitors, I've got some bad news for you. You are surrounded by them.
And we definitely are making an assumption there just because it is the most likely thing to have failed and failed in this way and caused this problem. It might be something else, but like the exact same electrical componentry is in a Class D amplifier. It's just utilized in a different way than a Class AB, but you're not going to get away from resistors and inductors and capacitors and little IC chips and PCB boards. You're not getting away from that. So if another failure happens, it could, but like we say, it's remarkably small percentage of these components that actually fail, but it's no guarantee that if you switch the type of amplification that there's zero possibility of this ever happening again. No, not the case.
Kev listens to us every week, but he does so while driving on his commute. While he's listening, he always thinks of questions he'd like to ask us, but since he's driving, he doesn't have a chance to write them down and fire off an email. Good, safe driving, my man. Mm-hmm. And then he arrives and goes into work mode, and the questions he thought of go out of his head. He uses Android Auto, which I do as well, and he's given the Google Assistant a try. But he found it wasn't accurate enough in recognizing everything he said, especially audio and technical terms that aren't as common. Aren't spelled the way they sound. And Google Gemini for Android Auto doesn't seem to be ready yet. I don't think any of this AI crap is ready yet. So his first question to us in a long time is this. What's a not too expensive, convenient device you can easily grab, press a single button, have it record, and generate a text note? He doesn't particularly want anything that's constantly listening at all times, and he's pretty sure that anything super small and wearable will quickly get lost when he takes it off. So any suggestions? I cannot tell you how bad the voice to text has gotten on my phone. It has gotten so bad.
It's demonstrably worse than it used to be.
Yeah. The idea that it can fix grammar, whoever thought that was a good idea, is just like talk about random ending of sentences. It drives me absolutely bonkers. So normally, honestly, you had me up into generates a text.
Sure.
Because I almost want to say, go back in time, find a Radio Shack, and buy a little, the
little
voice
mini tape
recorder.
recorders. Right?
Little
Lots
tape
of people
recorder.
had those, yeah.
And just keep it in your car.
Which, I mean, you can do on your phone because there's a voice recorder on your
Sure.
phone that you can definitely just activate a voice recorder and take a voice dictation. That is certainly doable.
I think that's almost certainly the best possible solution to this.
But then it means you have to listen back to it and transcribe
That's
it
true.
yourself.
I'm not saying it's the easiest.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's the best.
So, I mean, there's certainly devices that are meant for like boardrooms of, I just want to be able to have notes of the meeting that I went to. So you'll find all these, AI voice to text dictation takers and that. So like some good examples are the Plod Note that's being sold for $160. That one's recommended all the time. Or Anchor has their own, the Soundcore Work, I think is the one that they call. It's about the same price. But what I really don't like about those is that they require a subscription. I'm like, no, that doesn't sound like what he wants whatsoever. So before he wrote back and said he absolutely doesn't want something tiny and wearable, I was thinking something tiny and wearable that you don't even have to take your hands off the steering wheel to use. And so over at Pebble, they're introducing a little ring, the Index One, and literally all it is a little button that you press to start recording. $75, so it's not crazy priced, and it's a ring that literally goes on your finger. It is essentially disposable, though. The battery is not rechargeable or replaceable, and they say it should last 2 to 3 years, the battery. And they're like, send it back to us, we'll recycle it and send you a new one. That's the way they're handling the battery in the Pebble Index One. But he's like, nope, he doesn't want something that's actually like, wearable, and he would take it off and almost surely lose the thing. So, yeah, there's basically just a digital voice recorder, but it does voice to text without requiring a subscription. So that's there's a company called Ini Oasis, and they call this the Timku SR1. I have no idea why these names came out that way, but it's only $70. It has the whole thing. There's actually a physical button that you just press to record, or you can tap the button on the touch screen. There's 2 ways to do it, whatever you feel most comfortable with, and you talk into it like a regular dictation taker, and then it generates a voice to text that you can just output to any computer or laptop or tablet or whatever you want to. So it seems like what he wants for $70, so not crazy expensive.
I kind of feel like that's not any better than just using what he's using and then having to go back and read it and translate it into what he meant it to say. Like sending himself a text or sending a text to, or making a voice, what do they call it? Like a Google Note. There's notes, or they have the docs or whatever. Just doing that and then going back and reading it and going, well, that was not what I meant, but it's enough. It's close enough that it reminds me of what I meant to say.
Right.
In an email.
Yeah. It's going to be similar.
I think there's no reason not to just do it that way, but let us know what you come up with, because if there's I might actually pay for an app that actually can go back to fixing. All I wanted to do was do what it did before, which was put in the punctuation I tell you to put in, where I tell you to put it in, and don't try to randomly. Like
the old Dragon Naturally Speaking interface is what you were used to, right? So yeah,
that's what I want. Brandon wrote us a little while ago when he was finding that his LG OLED would often revert to using its built-in speakers rather than HDMI eARC after he had used his Harmony remote to power everything off for the night. We confirmed his own idea of adding a couple steps to the power off macro so that his Denon receiver will always switch to the HDMI eARC input prior to switching off, and that has mostly worked, although very rarely the HDMI eARC issue will still crop up. So we decided to try and get away from HDMI eARC entirely. Yes. And he added an Apple TV 4K to his system. Since the point was to stop using eARC, he plugged the Apple TV into his Denon receiver. And that's when he discovered that his Harmony remote doesn't have all the correct commands and labels programmed for his Denon receiver. It's an S760H, which came out just a few months after Logitech discontinued manufacturing the Harmony remotes, but they were definitely still updating their Harmony database at the time. He was able to create a workaround by finding an input label on his Harmony remote that didn't match any of the names of the HDMI ports on his Denon, but would select the third HDMI port regardless. He couldn't... Random. He couldn't find any commands on his Harmony that would allow him to select either of the first two HDMI ports on his Denon, though. So what gives? Is there a way to get his Harmony working properly with all the HDMI ports on his Denon S760H? What? Like, I've never heard of somebody not... They're usually just right there. They're just labeled, right? Whatever the label is on the back.
Input HDMI 1, input HDMI 2, or they're like input cable SAT, input Blu-ray. That is typically there.
Sometimes they're both, right? You can do either one and it does the same thing.
Yeah, and it sounds like, this stuff is there. Like, he found his Denon S760H in the Harmony database. This is, years ago at this point, and had it loaded in there, but like, it has a bunch of input HDMI whatever, or input cable SAT, or input TV, whatever it is, like, those are there, but they just, he presses those buttons and they don't do what the label says, or they don't do anything at all in some cases. So, this is not completely unheard of. I mean, look, there's naturally, if you still have the original remote that came with your Denon, you could just learn the IR commands directly and, just manually program it in, because that still works on the Harmonies, right? Doesn't matter whether the database is still alive and they've stopped updating it, you can still learn IR commands, so that, when it's relatively as simple as this, it sounds like he's got about 4 HDMI ports that he wants to switch to, so maybe that might be the simplest thing to do, honestly, is just learn the original IR commands from the original Denon remote. But other than that, the thing that we always used to do with Harmony remotes was, if we loaded a specific model number from a well-established brand that has lots and lots of products, and for whatever reason, the commands just didn't line up properly, it's essentially trial and error, but you try other models from the same brand, or in this case, it could be from Denon or Marantz, because they share the infrared remote commands across all of the AV receivers. And sometimes you'll find that loading like the S970H instead of the S760 or whatever. Like, sometimes you just load a different model number, and for whatever reason, that was done correctly and it all lines up, because it's not as though you load a different, relatively around the same time. If you go way back to a really old model, that might be completely different, or a completely brand new model, and yours was from several generations ago. But it's like something around the same generation, you'll very often find that just a different model number gives everything correctly, and it works completely fine. So that would be the other way to do it. But it is a bit of trial and error, because you don't know ahead of time which one has the correct, commands all programmed in their database and which one doesn't.
Lastly, he asks, hey, did I ever get my Ecobee thermostat working properly? I did not, but someone did. I don't know what the problem was, but we had some problems with the ACs of the rental unit above my garage, and there were like those mini splits, and anyways, they gave us a long explanation of what the problem was and why they didn't actually fix it, which kind of sucks. Okay. But the problem with getting an AC person to come out and install a thermostat for you is that there's a minimum charge for them to come to your house.
There sure is.
Well, but once they're there, it's just however much time it takes them to install the thing, as long as they don't have to put any parts or anything on it. So they were already here doing that. And then my wife was like, hey, can you install this? Because my husband's an idiot. She didn't say that, but that's what I heard. And he went, yeah, no problem. And I was like, yeah, I tried to install it. I've done it before. It's been successful. And, he's like, oh, they don't have all these wires that that you're supposed to have or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, in fact, I had to strip some of those wires because they were not used in this really basic thermostat we had over here. And he's like, well, I'm not sure if they're plugged into the AC unit or not, so we'll have to check that first. And if they're not, then we'll do this. But anyways, he basically told me some of the wires are not they're not plugged in properly, or they were the wrong color or something like that. Sure. There was something going on that he said you would not have known this. And if you plugged it in the way that you thought you should, it would not have worked. And that's why. And
well, there's no reason to feel bad then?
Well, isn't there though? I mean, anyway, so he
It's not
plugged
your
it in.
profession.
He plugged it in there properly, and it's been working great ever since. And we're
good.
super happy. I like the Ecobee. In fact, right before they knocked down my other house, there were like the sensors all over the house that I had. I was like, oh, we're not going to use those in the new house. We won't need them. Blah blah blah. And I just walked there the very last day, like the morning they showed up with bulldozers to knock the house down. I walked around and took them all off, and now they're all installed. All installed in here, and I don't really think we need them, but we got them. So yes, it is working properly. It's working great. Really love it. I'm very happy with it. So yes.
Good.
Patricio. First up, Patricio wrote us previously when he was having a strange, unpleasant experience with a deep bass in his theater. Not only was there a lack of tactile sensation when he was using his pair of SVS PB1000 subs, but he was also feeling a strange pressure on his ears at all times. He had taken some Room EQ Wizard measurements, so we went through those on a previous episode, and we'll show them on the screen, or you can look at the Flickr album to see.
That's the old measurement, showing the example.
We spotted the big dip that showed up in his measurement around 40 to 60 hertz, and we surmised that since he was using the Odyssey 1 equalization program, that there was a good chance it was attempting to fill in that dip, which was likely the cause of the ear pressure sensation. But no amount of boosting those frequencies in the EQ was going to restore the missing tactile sensation, since it was almost certainly a cancellation at the seat. The room is roughly 13 by 18.5 and it is enclosed in a pair of subs in diagonally opposite corners to start with. On our advice, he said about experimenting with different placements to try and improve the big dip he was getting. He marked all the spots along his walls where subwoofers could reasonably be located with masking tape. Then he used Room EQ Wizard to measure a single sub playing at each of those locations from the main seating location. Room EQ Wizard lets you calculate the summed output of multiple measurements. So he tried every two-position combination to try to find the flattest response. He found a couple of combos that somewhat improved the big dip, but none that fully eliminated it. So he tried moving the main listening position, and voila, he found a combo that significantly improved the response. If you look in this room, there are no treatments as far as I can see.
Yep.
Maybe
passive treatments are not going to affect 40 hertz.
No, they're not going to affect
unless
40
they're
hertz.
Insanely thick. So.
There's also a desk right up front, too. That's kind of cool.
There sure is.
I like that.
That's why there were only some reasonable locations that the subwoofers could actually live.
There's not a ton of places he can put these things.
That's right.
So we look at the new response. We see there was another dip, but it's way up above 100 hertz, a little bit above 100 hertz, but nothing major below.
Yeah, there are some ups and downs, but we're honestly talking, plus minus 4 at the worst in the response below 100 hertz. Yeah.
So with the major cancellation eliminated via physical placement of his subs in his seat, he reran Odyssey 1 calibration program and achieved what he thinks are incredible results. And you can see it's pretty flat. There's mostly eliminated all the dips, except there's something right around 180, maybe 190, something like that. But who cares about that? Yeah. Best of all, that strange ear pressure is gone and everything sounds fantastic now. It seems our diagnosis was correct. So kudos to us, he says, and he wanted to share and hear our response. We're the best. I'll be honest with you. That's what it comes down to.
But I mean, it was a little tricky that, ultimately to get the response he wanted, he ended up having to move his seating position.
He did a lot of really good work to make this happen.
Yeah. But it's maybe a little bit less than, completely ideal that it resulted in him having to move his seat. But we're dealing with room acoustics here. We're dealing with fluid dynamics and we're dealing with cancellations and, a relatively compact setup with not endless options of where everything can be positioned. So, I mean, this is, really applying the process in a fantastic, measured, calculated way. But ultimately, this is the thing where sometimes you'll still read reviewers who just go by completely subjective, response. And they'll say, oh, I was really disappointed in this subwoofer, just absolutely didn't have the tactile sensation that I thought a subwoofer of this price and size should have. It's like, is that the sub's fault? Because, we know the SVS PB1000s can handle this room size. There's no reason you shouldn't have good, no reason inherent to the subwoofers themselves that you shouldn't have good bass response with strong tactile response and this weird ear pressure sensation. I'm like, that's, we've had that sensation with noise canceling earphones sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You get that there's no actual sound playing, but I feel the pressure on my ears, and that's from that cancellation wave happening.
A lot of people don't like that about
that's right.
Those noise canceling headphones.
But fantastic job. Great on you to do all this. Rely on Room EQ Wizard, but ultimately, his own human perception is telling him whether the measured results line up with reality, right? It's like the ear pressure sensation went away and the tactile sensation came back and the bass sounds nice and smooth and even when he's sitting in his seat. And I was like, there you go. The measurements say so, but your own experience of it says so even more. And that's what really matters.
So now on to a new question. Patricio and his wife have decided to rearrange how they use their open living room / dining room / kitchen space. They love watching TV as a family and they enjoy a more TV-centric setup in that part of the house. So they're going to repurpose what is currently the dining room as a TV setup with surround sound. Now, before any of you miscreants get online and start saying anything about this room, first of all, it is incredibly hard to take pictures that really show how something looks in real life.
So I mean, even within the pictures themselves, it completely changes. The lighting completely changes the look of this, even just within the 4 photos that we have.
Yeah. So we've got very blue cabinets, and I think probably bluish, and some interesting wallpaper going on in here, as well as some mid-century modern furniture that I really like. I'll be honest with you. Mid-century modern is my jam, baby. And hardwood floors and a rug and all sorts of things. So in person, this is going to look very different. So if you want to come on here and be like, I can't believe you paint your cabinets blue, shut up. You don't know what it looks like in there.
Yeah, this is completely open. You can clearly see living room, kitchen, and then also upstairs. We can clearly see that it's open to upstairs with an open banister as well. So yeah, this is a definitely open concept space.
Yeah. So with the dining table removed, the area they're looking to use is 12 by 11 and 9 feet tall, but it is open to the world.
Yes.
He's already decided on wall mounting a 98-inch TCL QM7K. And that leaves him with about $3,000 in the budget to buy a nice 5.1 surround sound setup. There's little wiggle room in the budget if it's truly worthwhile, but that's the target. So he's penciled in plans for finding a den receiver, most likely a 1600H, X1600H, and then getting an RSL speed. Oh, that thing's going to suffer. RSL Speedwoofer 10S Mark II and 5 ELEC Debut 2.0 speakers, including the on-wall OW 4.2 models for the surrounds. What do we think? Aside from the alternatives we might mention, he's also thinking he might like to upgrade just the center speaker and also the sub. In this enclosed theater room, he's got a mix of speakers, Focal Sib front, left, and right, SVS Ultra Center, KEF T101 surrounds. Personally, he's never noticed a timbre mismatch. And when he upgraded his center speaker, that made a big worthwhile improvement in his experience. So should he try a similar approach in this open concept setup? Go for SVS Ultra Evolution Center instead of the ELEC Debut 2.0 Center, and then no one else in the family wants thumping loud bass in the setup, but he still wants the lower octave filled in. They want controlled, toned down bass. So the Speedwoofer 10S Mark II, is it up to the task, or should he increase his budget a little bit to afford something larger and more capable? Man, you're not going to like my answer. I don't think. I'll be honest with you. I don't think a subwoofer really is. Yeah, I understand what you're trying to do, but I don't know that I really agree that you should be trying. First of all, for surround in general, I can get behind having some surround. Yeah,
sort of seeing where the column is placed. I'm like, oh yeah, I see where the surround is going to get mounted on the column there. That's clear.
I mean, the running of the wires is going to be problematic because there's clearly a second floor here.
That's doable though.
You got to put it
or you could use ghost wire
or something. But that's fine. That part I'm okay with. But I really don't think you need much bass under 8. I mean, bass in general, what we think of as bass is way higher than a subwoofer in general. And there's no subwoofer that's going to be doing anything in here that other than just struggling for its life to try not to make noise.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of irony is that when you're saying I'm not worried about, obviously he's not worried about pressurizing at 20 hertz or whatever, and the family doesn't even want that. But the irony is, if you put a subwoofer that's too small for the space, what happens is it starts distorting. right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, we know he is going to be running Odyssey. Like, he's not someone who's not going to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's going to do its darndest to try
Get that
and
subwoofer
match.
to try to output what it's supposed to,
Yeah.
and it's just never going to be able to do
The
it.
irony is, if you got an enormous, crazy high output subwoofer, that's the one that's going to sound subtle in here, because it isn't going to be struggling and getting into distortion area. Like, this is actually, it reminds me, we're going back years now, but it reminds me of someone who had a not completely dissimilar setup, and we're like, can you get a PC12 plus cylinder? Because that's kind of like the bang to buck price performance ratio.
Which doesn't exist anymore, by the way.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It was years ago, but like at the time, he was also saying, like, I'm not expecting to pressurize. Like, can I get like an SB1000 and just get a little bit of bass? I'm like, that thing's gonna it won't destroy itself because it's so well protected, but it's gonna give you more distortion and sound louder than the sub that has way more output. So all of that is to say, as I don't think the Speedwoofer 10S Mark II is the right choice for this setup. I love that subwoofer, but it's not the right choice for this setup. I'm like, just get. I would hate to say like really capable bookshelf speakers, because I feel like that's the direction he wants to go. He wants to go small. He's definitely talking
towers,
bookshelf speakers. Yeah.
Yeah, tower speakers up front.
Yeah.
A matching center or not, because if you've got tower speakers on either side of a large TV, and you're sitting kind of further away from it, I don't know how close you're planning on putting this couch to it.
Mm-hmm.
Do
they're
you
talking
actually
the
need
spaces.
a center?
The space they want to use is only 10 by 11, so I imagine it's not crazy distances from the speakers themselves, but they're contending with this enormous volume of air when it comes to the bass. So, like, my thought was, if you are going to use a subwoofer in here, I'm not as against it as Tom. I think it can be done here, but I would probably favor getting like a remarkably large, beefy subwoofer, which means I'm going to point you to like HSU's TN1. I think that's maybe kind of the
blows the budget.
Kind of does, yeah. Like, that's half the budget, right, or a little bit more than half the budget. But like, I'm just saying, if you're gonna do it, I don't want bad results. I want to point you at something that's going to give you reasonable results. And like the TN1, I'm saying just because it doesn't take up as much floor space, it's got the smaller footprint. It trades height for footprint, just like the cylinder subs from SVS used to do. I mean, look, a PC2000 Pro wouldn't be the worst choice here either. But the TN1 has more output than the PC2000 Pro and is about the same price now, because SVS's prices are not crazy low. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking like a HSU TN1 is definitely going to mean the budget is out of control. But like, I'm just saying, don't get a Speedwoofer 10S Mark II, not because I don't love that sub, but just because it's the not right choice for this room. Then I'm also thinking, he's going for a pretty up-to-date TV. And we just heard right earlier, you can get an X1700H directly refurbished from Denon for under $500. I think that's the better choice, because at least that one has HDMI 2.1 ports, and the 1600 doesn't. So, I'd get a refurbished 1700H, X1700H directly from Denon. It barely changes the price you were talking about, but it has more updated features. So that one I think is pretty easy. But if that's the receiver you're going to rely on in here, it's like, I kind of do want more efficient speakers. The ELACs are actually a little bit on the low side of efficiency, even though I'm not worried about the treble given the physical distance. It's like, even into the lower mid-range, those are going to start to struggle. That X1700H, if you go what you go for, is like, it's going to be like heating up trying to make some ELACs contend with this room size. So I think a very reasonable choice here would be to go with Klipsch, because you can
You're
get
not going to say Philharmonic?
They're not super efficient.
Which one am I thinking of that has all the tweeters? That's super efficient.
Like Tecton?
Tecton, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Definitely. Sorry. I'm not sending you to Tecton for multiple reasons other than the speakers themselves. No, over at Crutchfield, they are clearing out the Klipsch Reference Premier Generation 1. Generation 3 is about to come in. They're still selling Generation 2, but you can easily get into the same budget category as the debut 2.0 speakers by going with the Klipsch Reference Premier Generation 1 that Crutchfield is clearing out right now. I was quite a fan of the Reference Premier. I think they're very good sounding speakers, and there's multiple different centers. Like, if you're just like, I just feel better about having a big beefy center, they've got like the 504 center, which is like 4 of the 5.25 inch drivers. It has crazy output capabilities, and it's $370 right now. It's a remarkably good deal over there. They're clearing out that Generation 1 at Crutchfield. So I think that makes sense. Also, if you go with Tom's plan, it's like, having like towers as your front, left, and right, and no sub, that's easily affordable if you go this route. So here's the thing. If you follow that advice and you get Klipsch Reference Premier, don't get a different brand of center. Stick with the Reference Premier center. They do have somewhat of a characteristic sound to them. If you want the experience of hearing a timbre mismatch, well, this would be a way to get that experience. But
get that SVS Ultra Center and then pair it with some Klipsch speakers. You'd be like, I can hear a pan.
That's a timbre mismatch. That's what that is. But yeah, no, I'm a pretty big fan of those speakers, and I think it's an appropriate choice for what you're dealing with here.
Yeah, and we aren't the biggest proponents of Klipsch speakers on here, specifically because they have their own kind of sound. We like things that are more neutral. But in
the Reference
this
Premier
case,
is less so, though. It's they're closer to neutral than their other speakers.
In this case, what we're really looking for is output more than anything. And you might be thinking, well, I want to have a very neutral speaker that's very this, blah, blah. I'm like, in this room, it really isn't going to matter. It really, you're going to be hearing as much room, if not more room, than the speaker itself.
Right.
Getting the output is more important than trying to get an even speaker, because you're not really going to be able to hear
a little bit of
directionality
directionality for the vocals. Not a bad thing in this room.
Not a bad thing.
I'm in favor of a little bit more directionality for the vocals. I think, that's what, if you were like, what would Rob H do in this room? That's what I would do.
I think I could get behind Klipsch. Okay. No sub in towers. Kenneth is trying to help a friend decide which new TV to buy. I hate helping friends buy things. It's so annoying because all they want to do is argue with you. Kenneth's friend moved into a new apartment. The only reasonable place to put a TV is above the fireplace. That's not reasonable. And they both know it's not the best, but it is what it is. Is there a wall mount that will let him lower the TV when it's in use, but also swivel it a bit to angle it? So we over at AV Gadgets have not done one of these reviews in a very long time because they're very hard to do. But we did review a mantle mount one, which is the kind of the go-to recommendation here.
Sure is.
They are the ones that kind of, I mean, there's other copycats now, but they were the ones that were the first one that really did the TV above the mantle that you can pull down in front of it. I have just never been, obviously none of us are very big fans of putting it above fireplace for a lot of reasons, but if you're going to, this is kind of the best way to do it so that you can pull it down to a reasonable level.
Lee Overstreet was on this very podcast not too long ago and had installed a mantle mount and was impressed by it. So they're on sale right now. You'd want the enhanced one. The enhanced one is the one that lets you swivel it a bit. It's plus minus 30 degrees on the swivel, but that's pretty reasonable. That's still a fair amount of swivel on there. They have an even more expensive one that is completely full motion, but it's like over $700. And I don't think, given the price that he says he wants for the TV, that he's looking to spend quite that amount on the mount. But this is what you asked for. This lets you lower the height of the TV, comes down in front of the fireplace at a nice viewing height, and then lets you swivel it plus minus 30 degrees for $250. So I think that's the way to go, is the mantle mount enhanced pull down TV mount.
So the available space for the TV is 66 inches wide and 64 inches in height, and by his quick calculations, I could just fit a 75-inch TV. Are you including the bezel with that quick?
It is, yes.
Okay. We'd like to keep the price around $1,000. The budget could maybe stretch as high as $1,500 total, but you're already spending $250 on the mount.
That's right.
So, let's keep that in mind. But $1,500 total, but only if it's really, really worth it. Non-negotiable is having 4K 120 support, and Kenneth's friend really wants that for gaming. So in all, which TV to get? So living room setup, so it's going to be well lit. Doesn't make any difference because all the TVs are going to be fine for that. Are the more established brands' names really worth it, or is TCL as good of a deal as they appear to be?
They are.
First of all, how is TCL not an established brand at this point? They've been around for it's not a long time.
Well, it's funny to say they're not Sony because they are Sony now. They now own Sony TVs, but that's not out on the market just yet. But for many people, they're still thinking of Samsung and Sony and that. So, honestly, I've got one TV to point you to. I do think you should get the 75-inch TV because you'll never regret going for the larger size in this setup. And for exactly $1,000, you can get TCL's 75-inch QM7K, which absolutely does 4K 120 support, full array local dimming, mini LED backlights. It's a remarkably good-looking TV. It is definitely nice and bright. That's it. That's the one to get. It's as simple as that, in my opinion.
right, good. Sasi, speaker sensitivity. He wants to start off with. Does Sasi understand correctly that our AVRant position is that in most cases, as long as your speakers have sufficient sensitivity to reach the desired output level, given your room size, seating distance, and amplification, then there's really nothing more to worry about. He recently went to AXPONA, which was the first mistake. And the audiophile community seems to have a strong affinity for high sensitivity speakers. Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they
I
want
do
to
not
pair them
disagree.
with very, very low powered amps because they're class A, and you think that the other one caught on fire. These really like to catch on fire.
The 1 watt amplifier.
1 watt.
Yep.
Some of it still goes back to thinking, quote, modern, end quote, high wattage amplifiers somehow, quote, ruin, unquote, the audio signal. But the more common claim being made is that high sensitivity speakers are more dynamic, quote unquote, and often offer better clarity at lower volume levels than normal sensitivity speakers do. I'm choking. Hold on a second.
Okay, yes, that's a pretty common thing here. The coffee.
I don't know what's going on. Something is in the back of my throat and it's making me kind of gag. Sasi suspects that many high sensitivity speakers also tend to have lifted treble response, and for older, predominantly male crowd, I don't know that male has that much to do with it, but older for sure.
Men tend to lose their hearing more than women do.
That's because they're stupid. It actually is just this built-in EQ that they like. But is there any validity to the claims about high sensitivity speakers having better dynamics and better clarity at lower volume levels? Do we have any other theories as to why this affinity perseveres to this day? I will continually and never-endingly claim that the number one thing that people want to do when they like a thing is try to keep other people from liking it or from being validated in the way that they're doing it. Okay. Right. So audiophiles definitively want to tell you that your speakers, amps, cables, electronics are not good enough. There's something that's not good enough about what you have. So yes, higher sense, like super ultra high sensitivity speakers are super important because you don't have them and they do.
Right.
That is the number one thing as far as I'm concerned.
That's the most appealing part of it, for sure.
The most important thing is that you can't have them because they already bought the only copy, the only pair that was made by the dude who made them in his basement and blah, blah, blah.
Well, and also it's not even about the high sensitivity because all of us home theater fans, we can get very high sensitivity speakers from, say, JTR speakers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But audiophiles look at those and they go, well, no, those are no good. They haven't heard them, but they're like, those are no good because look at them. They're home theater speakers. But it's like, so it's not about the high sensitivity. It's about the exclusivity. That's what it's about. Yeah,
it's all about exclusivity. It's all about excluding you and other people from their hobby in some way. There's a bunch of other stuff that goes along with it, but all of the claims that they're somehow more dynamic or whatever is all based in what they consider to be face validity. It makes sense on the face of it to them that the speaker with the high sensitivity will have more dynamics to it.
Well, and also when the only amp you ever accept using is a 1 watt tube-based amplifier, then that amplifier legitimately runs out of headroom trying to power a normal sensitivity speaker, so it is not as dynamic. The difference between quiet and loud is objectively smaller when you're using a 1 watt amplifier. That is the truth. So there is more dynamic headroom in a high sensitivity speaker that way.
He's exaggerating a bit. They
not much.
Don't use 1 watt amplifiers. They sometimes use 3 watt amplifiers. Right. So I mean, it is
10 watt.
It is ridiculously low. And then why do they do that? Because then they can look at your amp with 100 watts and go, that's garbage, or
I mean, I'm at the point of claiming that audio amplifiers have basically been solved with the current Class D Encore and Purify Eigentakt amplifiers. I'm like, amplifiers have been solved. It's like
Class AB
no
amps have been solved for a long time. I mean, that's been a non-issue. And then they were able to poop all over Class D amps or Class H or whatever because of they have problems with with impedance swings, and then they fix that, and now they're like,
right.
well, that's too many numbers.
But the other part of it with the better clarity at lower volume, or even just vocal clarity or whatever it is, yeah, definitely there's some of the high frequency tip up is a very common thing, and that's a lot to do with it, especially with they're claiming better vocal clarity. But what you'll see on virtually all, simply because it's basically the only way you can do it, and this applies to JTR speakers too, is that almost all of them are horn loaded. In some way, they're horn loaded or compression tweeter loaded, because how else are you going to make an exceedingly sensitive speaker? And so by virtue of being horn loaded or compression loaded, or down the throat of a compression horn or something like that, they are considerably more directional. It works for one seat aimed straight at you, and as a result, when you play that at a very low volume, it does have a different quality to the sound than a nice, wide, even dispersion speaker that isn't aimed directly at your ear with a literal horn directing the sound into your ears. There is a different sound quality to it, not because it's more sensitive, but because it's so much more directional. That's the difference that's going on there. So it's like, that is why in a blind listening comparison, you can discern different speakers from each other, right? We'll talk about how you can't tell a difference between DACs, and you can't tell a difference between speaker cables and stuff like that. But speakers, in a controlled blind listening comparison, you can tell differences between speakers that have genuinely different designs, and one of those can be like a massive horn directionality. So I think that's what's going on with those.
Yeah, and they always love extremes. This happens too in other things, but they love extremes. So either it has to be the highest sensitivity possible,
right,
or it has to be the lowest wattage amp possible.
Yes,
like it's not you can't have something normal, because that's what everybody has. You have to have something crazy.
That's right.
Same thing happens in bikes. It drives me nuts. People are like, "Oh, I saw that the new." Tade was riding a bike with a 1x system. So should I get a 1x system? Like, are you Tade? And did somebody hand you a bike? Because that's the only reason why he's doing that. Because I guarantee you, his bike at home has a 2x system like a normal person. What is wrong with you people? He says there's still, this is still Sasi. Mm-hmm. There seems to be still be a stigma about wearing hearing aids while listening to hi-fi. Really? This is news to me. Why would you not want to be able to hear while you're listening to hi-fi? Whatever.
I have a comment.
Sasi thinks that's kind of crazy. Nobody negatively judges anyone for wearing glasses to watch a movie, or a professional video calibrator wearing glasses. So why not use hearing aids if you're starting to experience hearing loss? He does know that almost all hearing aids only focused on amplifying the focal region.
Oh, that should be vocal. Sorry.
Vocal. Yes.
The vocal region, yes.
Yeah, okay, I'll change that. Just like this.
It's so important to change it in this document that no one else will ever see and will never be spoken again.
That's right. None seem to make claims about helping above 8 kilohertz at the most. So do we foresee future improvements in available hearing aids, specifically for music listening, wire frequency response, and the desire for the aging consumer market that would make such an offering worthwhile? So my dad has hearing aids. He refuses to wear them. As does mine. Yes. Because he says that they're not properly tuned, essentially, is what his complaint is, that they make some sounds way too loud, and he doesn't like it. So rather than going back over and over again to the hearing specialist that he went to, that he won't tell me who it is, because it's probably at the Sam's Club, but maybe not. I don't know. He's just not going to wear them. He's going to spend however many thousands of dollars on them twice, by the way, because the first pair got flooded. So when the house flooded, and the second pair now he doesn't wear because they're not tuned properly. So I didn't realize there was a stigma about wearing hearing aids while listening to hi-fi. I know people who have hearing aids, and I have been in a room with them when they have watched a movie with me at volume, and they have worn them while they do so. So I would never have thought that it would be a problem. But I mean, how else are you supposed to address the fact that you can't hear certain frequencies? Are you supposed to EQ the system specifically for you? Is that how you're supposed to do it?
Well, you sure can in some setups. Sure.
Well, you could, but then how? Like, you have to do it through a Room EQ wizard, and you would know what your. I mean, these are people who are never going to use measurements or room acoustic or room correction or EQ or any of those things. They're just going to take their hearing aids out while listening to what an insane thing. What an insane, stupid thing.
Here's the thing, though. Like, so my dad has profound hearing loss. Like, that's the actual term, right? The actual term is profound hearing loss. And so he's a music lover, and it really does bother him. It's an emotional thing not being able to enjoy music on your stereo like you used to be able to. And he even tried, with my help, some in-ear monitors just to see if he could get a better experience that way. But his hearing is at a point where that's just not sufficient. Unfortunately, it's really quite a sad thing. So his complaint is that, he has hearing aids that he has had tuned multiple times. It's about as good as it can possibly get to, but, the hearing aids are definitely focused on the vocal range. That is the most important thing, is being able to hear what people are saying, but it is unnatural sounding for music. And that is an objective truth. It doesn't sound like normal music when you play it back through there, because they're focusing so predominantly on the vocal range. Now, his hearing aids have multiple modes, right? They have a focused mode, they have a block out external noise mode, they have a wide range mode, hear everything, and they have a music mode. But there are just limitations in the circuitry of it. It just is not the entire range. It's pretty much like 400 hertz to 4 kilohertz. Like, that's really the range that it's going for there. It's essentially a weighted response. It's pretty darn close to that. And so he's remarked how, like, he accepts that he's never going to hear the high frequencies again. He understands that, but he's like, the bass also just doesn't sound right, because it is amplifying, 400 hertz and up, and everything below that isn't really getting amplified. And so it just sounds very unnatural, and it's completely lacking the bass in addition. And so I can see people saying, I don't enjoy listening to music this way. Like, I can hear it better. I can hear that something is playing better, but it doesn't sound good. And I absolutely sympathize with that, because that's not the experience I would want to have either. So, of course, there's a wide range of hearing loss, and there's a couple of hearing aids out there. I know it's a German hearing aid company that has tried to focus a little bit more specifically on music as one of the modes, and have attempted to increase the frequency range, including more into the bass. So it's not that it's unknown, but it's still a little bit uncommon. I would hope, as we have more and more older people with more and more hearing loss who do still want to enjoy music, I'm kind of maybe hoping that Apple continues on, what they did with their AirPods Pro, and being able to use those as not for profound hearing loss, but as basic over-the-counter hearing aids, like actually certified as being over-the-counter hearing aids. Like, I hope they continue to evolve that and get better and better at it, because the AirPods Pro are not bad earphones, like including into the bass and into the treble. And if Apple can expand the hearing aid side of that and make use of the capabilities of those, I'm like, I have some hope for that. I don't think it's ever going to get to where profound hearing loss is going to be correctable, but I think we can do better. So I have some hope for that. I'm hoping on both sides that expands a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I would love it for me, it would be important that they, my hearing aids give me as much of my hearing back as possible,
yes,
not just the the vocal range.
Yeah,
I would want as much as possible. So Sasi got to see the new PerListen X series on-wall speakers in person. They're still more expensive than a lot of the on-walls we typically recommend, but he thought they were aesthetically pleasing. I mean, they're black. I guess they're also white.
And white.
I only saw the black ones. And they're less expensive than most of PerListen's other speaker offerings. So what's our take? Well, we already kind of talked about it.
Yeah.
But, pretty interesting solution. I like the fact that you don't have to have a special mount for ceilings versus walls. I like it's kind of a weird solution, kind of having the holes through it. But I like it. I agree they're kind of big. I wish that there were a way that you could get the wire, because it seems that you can't get the wire into the back of the speaker without cutting a hole in the wall. I don't know that that's the perfect solution for everybody.
Right.
But I guess if you're spending this amount of money on speakers, you're not installing them yourself.
Yeah, like I said when we talked about it in the news, I think it's a rather narrow niche that they've carved out here, right? Because it's like you are paying a higher price, but they're not like crazy output champions. So you got to fit right into where these make sense for your setup and not much else. So I think it's a fairly narrow niche that they've carved here, but for exactly the right setup, they might be a good solution.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. He says Andrew Jones was at AXPONA. He's still working with MoFi right now. MoFi. Talk about lo-fi. I'm talking about MoFi. Mm-hmm. Anyways, but he also started a new company of his own, new speaker company of his own called Jones and Soretta. Soretta? I think it's Soretta. Looks like Soretta. So their first speaker is going to be called the Troubadour, and it is, no surprise, a coaxial design. They've priced it at They priced it at $34,000 per pair.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
The guy who brought you the speakers that everybody recommended because they were so cheap is back again. This time, the new speaker that you can trade your car in for. So a big departure from all of the affordable speakers that Andrew Jones has worked on for the past several years at Pioneer, ELAC, and MoFi. The TAD speakers he designed back in the day were more expensive than his new offering. Mm-hmm. So just out of curiosity, what do we think? What does venturing into this sort of price category allow that price conscious designs just can't match?
Wild cabinets. Andrew has said many times, like the most challenging thing of releasing an affordable speaker is the cabinets. It's like the cabinets actually cost more than any other single component, right? If you consider the cabinet to be a single component, it is by far the most expensive single component. And then getting that manufactured at scale in good quality at a really affordable price is the most challenging thing designing any speaker. So when you're essentially at cost no object, then you can make bespoke cabinets, and that is a huge portion of the price is the cabinets. And then because they're obviously not looking to sell more than a handful of these every year, you price it at 4 times the cost of components at the minimum, maybe more than 4 times the cost of components, and a huge portion of that is the cabinets. So that's where a lot of that comes from.
So here's what I have to say about like high end speakers. Mm-hmm. So high end speakers, go from being functional to being art at some point.
Yeah.
And I believe that even goes into like the driver design and materials and stuff like that. It stops being about sounding as good as you need it, and it starts being like, well, this is performance that you're never going to really experience, but is there, and also it's made out of diamonds. So here's diamonds.
Less of a engineering driven and a bit more of a we are treating this as an artistic endeavor driven.
Yeah. And I don't think that I don't think that you can blame a speaker. I have a problem with a really expensive speaker that looks like a big black box.
Right.
I even have a problem with a really expensive speaker that looks like a big wooden, very nicely finished box.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it should be more interesting. Like you right. See something like what's the stupid ones that are just big old horns? What's the company that makes those? There was
the Cat ones. Cat had those.
So Cat has like the big ones that look like they come together in the middle.
Yeah. That's
the
California
massive,
Audio.
Yeah, California Audio Technologies. But there's it's not I keep wanting to say Ascend because it starts with, it's like acoustic research
like
or something like that.
Ascendo?
Yeah, they're just massive horns.
Oh, yeah.
Like 3 or 4 or 5 horns. Some of them are like 2 feet across.
Yeah, Ascendo has those, yeah.
And those kinds of speakers, it literally doesn't matter how they sound because I don't think anybody's ever playing them anyways. They may turn them on for a few minutes for guests, but it's really there to be a piece of art in your room, like a piece of sculpture. So I don't judge so much the speaker for being a piece of art. I judge a speaker when they're like, and also it's the best sounding speaker you'll ever hear. I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
I think it's at best going to sound just as good as anything else. And in many ways, the bass is going to be worse because I have subwoofers and you won't let me have them. So,
well, yeah,
I mean,
these are going to be targeting full range response for sure. In an anechoic chamber, I don't doubt that they can do it, but yeah, you put them in a room and all of a sudden that's not flat frequency response anymore.
When I went to a high-end show in Jacksonville many moons ago, there was many speakers that I was like, there is no world where I pay that amount of money for this speaker. I just won't do it. And not only that, there were so many speakers that looked exactly the same, which was disturbing to me.
Yeah.
It was like line array, big old, too tall for this freaking room line array with a million tweeters in it, and then a separate box that was the woofer, which subwoofer, whatever.
Sure, yeah.
But the box was bigger than a tower speaker that you might buy. And there's just 4 boxes in this room, and I'm just like, they're just big black boxes, man. They're just big. Yeah, they're line arrays, whatever. Okay, that's fine. But and maybe they sound great, whatever. That's fine. But they just look the same. They just look the same, and I could say that about electrostatic speakers as well, where they're just like, they don't look that much different. I wish they did.
What else can you do? It's a big old panel. You can't get away from it.
Yeah, so I feel like if you're going to spend this amount of money on a speaker, people should come in and go, what actually is that?
Yes, point of interest.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen these Troubadours. I have no idea how they look or what the design is. I do recall that those TID speakers, huge part of the cost was back then they had integrated amplifiers, and they didn't have the type of Class D amplifiers that we have now. Back when those Andrew Jones TAD speakers were designed, it's like the dream of the Purify amplifiers that we have now. It's like, so maybe that's going on. Maybe he's kind of revisiting that TAD design, but with modern amplifier technology, which actually allows him to do it at a considerably lower price, because you were dealing with some crazy amplifier designs back in the day when he did those TAD speakers.
Yeah, so I'm okay with there being really expensive speakers out there, just like I'm okay with there being like high-end cars that I will never buy.
No, I mean,
and even
anything
if I had
that's
the
made
money,
in very limited quantities is going to have a higher price than something that's manufactured on scale, hundreds of thousands or millions of them.
And I honestly don't think I care how they sound. Like, I don't think they need to sound the best.
I'll bet these Troubadours sound pretty good.
I'm sure they do. But I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's more than that. And I think that if you put that much thought and technology into a speaker, it's going to sound good enough.
Right.
I just think it will.
At AXPONA, $34,000 a pair. That's entry level. So.
That's entry level. Don't be ridiculous. How efficient are they? I mean, can they be powered by a single watt? Because that's what they need. Lastly, Sasi asks, how thick exactly is Rob's custom Ascend Acoustic Sierra Horizon center?
It is exactly in the cabinet, 7.5 inches from front to back. Now, there are the binding posts that stick out on one side on the back. So there is a total depth that is greater than that. But the cabinet itself is exactly 7.5 inches. The customized front, left, and right that I have are exactly 11 3/4 inches from front to back. The cabinets, the binding posts stick out a little bit more.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all our questions for this week.
It sure
I want to
is.
remind you that we may or may not be giving away, we may be giving away only one or maybe more than one X1S.
We honestly don't know at this point.
We don't know.
But we wanted to give you a
it,
chance to enter. Yes.
Just email us at question@avrant.com. Give me a remote. I mean, be nicer.
Please mention Sofabaton X1S. I really don't want to have to look harder than that. So please put in your email, Sofabaton X1S Giveaway or something to that. Yes.
X1S Giveaway.
Yes.
Sign me up is in the body.
Right. Yes.
And that'll be it. And send us only one email, please, because we don't want to have to filter things out. And then if we notice that you've sent us many, you will be excluded.
And at some point in the not terribly distant future, we'll do a random draw and give away at least one Sofabaton X1S.
Rob will make a list of people, sorted in some way, and I will come up with a number between 1 and whatever it was, or however many numbers I need to. And then that way we'll keep it separate. If you want to get your question answered on your podcast, all you have to do is ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com.
Listeners of the
thank
week.
our listeners of the week. I forgot that. How do I end this thing? Because I got it all screwed up. I want to thank our listeners of the week. I want to thank Dan and Patricio for going to avrant.com, clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and sending us a PayPal donation, as well as our 121 patrons over at patreon.com, including Kenneth.
That is right. Dan and Patricio, thank you so much for those PayPal donations. And patreon.com/AVRant podcast is where you can go to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 121 patrons over there. And Kenneth, thanks for being one of them.
And thanks for those who sent in notes of gratitude, including Henry, Kev, Bill, Brandon, Ren, Ray, Karl, Patricio, and Sasi. Thank you for thanking us.
Yeah, I'll say the names one more time. We got Henry, Kev, Bill, Brandon, Ren, Ray, Karl, Patricio, and Sasi. Thanks so much for the notes of encouragement and gratitude. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your, I already said this, but send your questions at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Antry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.